this morning in conjunction with my colleague David Alexander from Alexander Accountancy. So before I start, I'm going to just go through a load of housekeeping with you, if I may. First things first, if you wouldn't mind putting your chat to private, that would be greatly appreciated, so that if you have a question, which I'll talk about in a second, it's not going to be bombarding everybody's screens. It will just go to myself. So if you could please all put your chats to private, that would be greatly appreciated. We're going to take questions at the end. We are due to finish approximately 11:30. And that's when I'll take as many questions as you want. If we run over, which we well could, because this is a brand new format that we're doing this in, I normally take approximately 5 hours to do this session. It's okay. If you need to go, you need to go. You are going to get a recording of the session if you miss anything at the end. So let's save all of our questions till the end. I want you to take notes. If you haven't got a pen and paper handy, please go and get one. We will retain 35% more information if we take notes. It's really, really important we take copious amounts of notes. Now, we're going to have a break approximately 10 o'clock. Please bear with me, guys. This is only the second time I've done it in this format, so we're still just coming to terms with timings. And as I said, we are aiming to finish at 11:30. And if we go over, if you can stay with us, that would be great. We might wrap it up in enough time. I just don't know. The key thing today, just to stress, is I'm only going to scratch the surface in today's session. That's all I'm going to do is scratch the surface. You're going to get to hear and understand a tiny fraction of what it is that I do with my clients who are small to medium-sized business owners just like you on a daily basis. Now, at the end of today, you're going to get an email with the recording, as I said, of today's session. And there's also going to be a link to a SurveyMonkey. And it's really important, guys, that you fill that out and you give us feedback. We're adapting our presentation. So we want to hear from you what you took from it and, more importantly, what we can do to improve going forwards. Now, we did have some IT glitches the last time we did this session, and if the system crashes for whatever reason, please just give me 2 minutes and then log back in again. It will give me a chance to just reboot my system. So I think that's all of my housekeeping. Right, let's kick off. So, as I said, my name's Jazz Dara, and I've been coaching now since January 2007. So we're in our 14th year now, 13 and a half complete years. And prior to starting coaching, I spent a lot of time working for other people, learning from some really, really good people, and maybe not learning from some good people, but all the time learning. And when I was 23, I was given a cracking opportunity by my cousin up in Scotland who wanted me to come and run his bar restaurant. And he wanted to go and do a few other things, and he thought that I was fit to run his business. I don't know how he thought that, because my entire experience in his business was 6 weeks one summer clearing tables while I was trying to clear some university debts. But he gave me a cracking opportunity, which I jumped at the chance of doing. Of course, it was going to be earning cracking money, working for family in a part of the world I really, really liked. So I jumped in with 2 feet. The business was about £750,000 a year turnover. This was in the mid-90s. Employed approximately 35 members of staff. Fair-sized business, and I had no experience of running a business, let alone managing people. So as you can imagine, I might have made the odd mistake. And what I'm trying to stress here is making mistakes is absolutely fine. There's such a fear that people have of making mistakes. But sometimes I think it limits our growth, because we are a direct reflection of our business. And if we're not growing, neither is our business. And our growth comes outside of our comfort zone. So therefore, it's meant to feel uncomfortable. You're meant to make mistakes. Mistakes are absolutely fine. It's a sign that you're growing and you're developing. And remember, if you do, so does your business. So making mistakes, as far as I'm concerned, is absolutely fine. Now, this next slide is called the home team. It consists of Angela, who some of you have spoken to, and my 2 children, Poppy and Jasmine. And based on their moods approximately an hour ago, I'm really glad that they're on this webinar with us. I could also call this slide the why. I call it the home team on here, but I could call it the why. And it's a question I ask of every single audience I ever speak in front of. Why? Why do you do what you do? And I think it's really important for us to understand that. Well, more so, especially in the last 6 to 8 weeks, because us business people, we've taken some hits, have we not, folks? Absolutely we have. And it can be, at the best of times, extremely hard in business. And I have a phrase that says nobody fails until they give up. So if we have something that keeps us in the game, that keeps us getting up from those hits that we get every single day, because we get them in business, we know that, then surely that can't be a bad thing. And the why comes from here. It comes from your heart. It's got to be something personal. It's not a business goal. It's something much more deeper than that and more meaningful. And knowing your why, as I said, is incredibly important, especially if you're going through a tough time, which I'd like to think the majority of people on this call have been through in the last 8 weeks. So I'm not asking for answers, I'm just sowing the seeds and asking the questions today. What's your why? If you don't know, maybe take some time to go and think about it and really focus on it, because when you need it, I promise you, it will come in handy. It's that light at the end of the tunnel that keeps you going, that gets you up for the next fight, sustain the game until you get the result that you wanted. My why, just for reference, ladies and gentlemen, is for me to drive our businesses forwards every single day so that we can have more time as a family. Time is the most important thing to us. T-I-M-E to us. It's how our kids spell love. And that's what we want to do. We want more time. So what's your why? Have a think about it. So, as I said, we started in January 2007. I run the business with my wife, Angela. We have a couple of people that work for us scattered around the world, but it's primarily myself and Angela. And our vision is to give every business owner a business to be proud of and a life worth living. And it's really important for me to stress, those of you on the call that know me, you know that the second bit is more important than the first bit to me, because I can show anyone how to make a stack load of money, but if you didn't do the things that you wanted to do in your life while you did that, then what was the point? We're a long time dead, as I always say. If it stopped you from seeing your kids grow up, if that's relevant, if it stopped you from doing the things that you wanted to do, what was the point? Too many people think it's a business or a life. Well, we're all about and. It's not either or, it's about and. That's our job, is to make sure you can have a business and a life. So what's my job then when I'm coaching business people just like you on the call today? Well, primarily is to change the habits of a lifetime, the habits that say that my only purpose in business as the owner is to put out fires and to save a wage. Now, when we first start in business, I think it's fair to, and I hope everybody will agree with me, that we have to hold all of those, or we have to help wear all those hats, should I say. But if we have desire to grow and to develop our business, then sooner or later, somebody's going to have to question that. And that's my job, is to question that mindset. The mindset that says my job is to work in the business, being reactive, putting out fires, to flicking that on its head and saying, no, your job as the leader is to work on the business, being proactive, and stopping fires from burning in the first place. It's that fundamental step change that I've got to enact. And as you can imagine, I'm dealing with business owners, and some of them have got deeply held belief systems. And that can be very hard to challenge and change, but that's my job. And that's primarily what I do. What I don't do, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm not a consultant. My job is not to do the work. My job is to firstly empower my clients by making them aware of what it is that they want to achieve, because a lot of people have forgotten that. Then is to give them the knowledge that they need. And knowledge is a massive part of what we do. Knowledge, learning. If you want to earn some more, you've got to learn some more. There's your first learning, I hope, for today. If you want to earn some more, you've got to learn some more. And we're all about teaching and giving our clients knowledge. And then it's about holding my clients accountable to do what it is that they said they were going to do. Because when you have a business, ladies and gentlemen, you haven't got a boss, have you? Well, my job is to become that boss, is to hold my clients accountable to do what it was that they said they were going to do. 9 times out of 10, they already know what it is they had to do. Sometimes somebody has to lift the fog, because the fog can descend, folks. Of course it can. But 9 times out of 10, they do know what they do to do, but somebody has to hold them accountable to do it. So that's my job. Now, if you think I'm going to try to sell you something today, then yes, you're not going to be disappointed. But before I even talk about selling you anything and telling you about what it is that we do, I've got to make sure I've earned that right. And the way that I'm going to do it is making sure I've satisfied your requirements, because you're giving me a decent proportion of your morning today, and I want to make sure I've given you value for that. So I want to talk about sales and profits. Yes, I want to talk about time, one of the fundamental things that I have to master with my new clients. I want to talk about your team, probably one of the biggest areas where business owners struggle. So if they're the 3 things, or one of those 3 things, or all 3 of those, what you were interested in on coming on the call today, well done, you're in the right place. I have one other objective, and that is to question your thinking. Because if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. And I'm not saying what you've thought and what you've done is wrong. What I'm saying is, surely it makes sense every now and again for us to just cross-reference our thought processes and just make sure, and we just keep questioning ourselves, because again, in business, that's our job. And as I said, at the end, when I've satisfied all of those tick boxes, I'd like to tell you just a little bit more about 3 of the things that we do. The one-to-one coaching, something called our Reach Planning Days, which by virtue of coming on this call today, you can now come to. And The next one, because it is still electronic, you can come free of charge if you choose to. And Reach Club. Guys, I can't begin to tell you how excited I am about this. For the last 6 to 8 weeks, I've conducted about 18 months worth of work. I was planning to do this at the back end of 2021, but I've just put the afterburners on and I have turned a complete brand new program, an online program, which I can't wait. I think this is going to be a game changer for the business coaching industry, because for the first time ever, small to medium-sized business owners in the comfort of their own homes on a laptop are going to be able to work on their businesses. And more importantly, I'm going to show people how. Lots of people tell you about the why and the what, but what I'm going to do on this program is tell you about that how and show you how to do it. But I promise you that will be at the end. Now, as I said, everything that we teach, everything that we do is about sharing learnings. And here at Reach Business Coaching, we call them LBMs, light bulb moments, eureka moments. And that's my objective today, is make sure I give you as many of those as I can. I hope that you take more notes today than you'll know what to do within the next 12 months. Not just to come out of what we're currently in, but to make sure that when you come out of it, especially if some of your competitors have gone into hibernation, you're on the front foot. That's something I've been teaching all of my clients since the crisis first started, was that we've got to continue to maintain that momentum, because the handbrake will come off. For some of you, it already has. We've got to make sure that we're on the front foot when it happens. And the way we're going to do that is by giving you lots and lots of learnings. Now, all of those learnings, none of them are going to make a blind bit of difference. You won't do anything with them if your mindset isn't right. And underpinning everything that we do is mindset. That's one thing that everyone's got. And what I'm going to share with you next are going to be some of what we call our generalized principles. These are mindset theories that you can use at any time. A generalized principle is applicable all the time. It's like gravity. It's applicable all the time. And the first one I want to share with you is this one. By the way, you're going to get these generalized principles later as well, because out of sight means out of mind. It's okay me sharing them with you now. If you don't do anything with them or you forget them as soon as you hang up, there's no point. The first one is about participation, giving things a go. And this one is so true in business and in all walks of life. Very rarely, folks, do we get the result that we were looking for first time. But too often, it's too easy for people to throw the towel in and say, well, that never worked. Well, we don't get the result first time. And if everyone on this call knows how to walk, then you really should understand this principle about participation, because the first time you tried that, you never got it right. But your parents didn't turn around to you and say, well, I think you should give that walking like a miss. I think you're going to be the crawling type. No, you kept on going until you got the result. And that is so true in business and in life. So let's please embrace and embody that overall principle of participation. We've got to get participation going. And especially with this crisis, folks, there is opportunities. If you haven't already seen them, there will be bundles and bundles of opportunities, regardless of what kind of business you're in. But if you don't embody the principles of participation, of looking through the right lens, you'll miss these opportunities. Your competitors will pick them up. And this is why it's so important that we don't just turn a blind eye when we think that could work. Well, that'll never work in my industry. We've got to give things a go, okay? Some good will come out of this if we look at it through the right lens. And participation, folks, is going to be later on when I send you the Survey Monkey. Let's see if you participate and engage, because when you do something, it might not give you the result, especially first time, that you wanted to achieve. But here's the thing. If you've heard the concept of the ripple effect, well, the ripple effect might be something completely different than what you wanted to achieve originally. But something will come of the fact that you took action. But sitting there on your hands and doing nothing is going to give you nothing, period. That's why you've got to take action and participate. That's really, really important. Folks, you're also going to have to excuse me. I'm going to be looking at some notes because I don't normally do my presentation like this. I'm just going to go through bullet points today to give you as much as I can in this shorter space of time that we have. Now, the two worst words in the English language when it comes to preventing learning: I know. Literally, the moment you utter those words, you're going to shut down the brain. If you've got kids, especially teenage kids, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But as adults, we also do it. And if you've ever read a book more than once or watched a film more than once and picked up things a second time you never got the first time, you'll know exactly what I mean. It's because you ditched the I knows. Because if any stage this morning you go, oh, that's bloody obvious, I know that, well, you're then going to physically shut down the part of your brain that was open to learning, and you won't take anything else in, which I think will be a crying shame and a waste of your time. So if you think I'm covering something that you already know or it's obvious, then please just change the languaging for me. Change it to that instead, because that way your brain will stay open. I want to give you as much as I can in this short space of time that you've blessed me with, okay? So let's leave the I knows outside. Now, the second most important slide I can ever share with anyone, it's going to be sent to you today, is about this one here. It's about that line of choice that we walk along every single day. Because in business and in life, does everything always go according to plan? Definitely not in the last couple of months, obviously. But when it doesn't, unfortunately, that's the behavior that most people seem to indulge in. They go below the line, as we call it. They start to blame everybody else. They start to make excuses. And for the vast majority of business owners, when COVID-19 kicked in, and it was all right, by the way, guys, we went into denial. We went into denial and buried our heads in the sand. And listen, when something goes wrong, all of us will go there because we respond from the heart. It's an emotional response. But here's the thing, when you're what I call having the pity party, when we're below the line and we're burning our number one asset, our energy, when we're blaming, we're moaning, we're shouting, we're ranting, we're raving, what are we actually fixing about the issue? Exactly, nothing. We're fixing nothing. And here's the thing, here's my choice for you today that I'm going to introduce you to, is that when something goes wrong, the healthiest and wealthiest question you can ever ask of yourself, and more importantly, is this. So what am I going to do about it? I'll repeat that. It sounds too simple. What am I going to do about it? Not us, not you, not we, not them. What am I going to do about it? Just think about that for a second. That removes, for the avoidance of doubt, the responsibility on anybody else other than myself. Stop looking at 360 degrees of blame or trying to point the finger, because that's incredibly tiring. Look this way. This is the one person that you can control above everything and everybody else. So my challenge for you today, whether you had it before, when you had this slide or this mindset before, if you haven't, you can use it from today onwards, is that when something goes wrong or something's not going according to plan, then ask yourself a question. What am I going to do about it? Too many people, listen, I said it in a lot of my videos. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you'll see them. I said it was okay for business owners to spend a couple of days under the duvet in the fetal position when everything was going completely bonkers. But if your ship is letting in water, you need to get a bucket and start bailing out. You need to start helping. You can't be off that ship. So that's our responsibility, folks, whether you like it or not. And this is a way of life. This is a lifestyle choice, is to be above that line. I promise you, the greater percentage of time you spend above that line, the healthier and wealthier you will be. I guarantee you, okay? So above and below the line. Now, here's a mindset concept that probably has come in very handy over the last few months. Fun. I think the fun got drained out of a lot of people over the last couple of months, especially the first few weeks when the panic modes were happening. And it's really important that we understand that fun does improve productivity. It improves our creativity, blood flows more to the head, and customers can see a smile even down the phone. So it's really important that, and this is what I think is so important being in business, we have to be martyrs to our own feelings, that we do make sure that people are enjoying what they're doing, even though we might be petrified, especially the last few months, okay? So let's just make sure that we're, just ask ourselves a question. Remember, people take our lead. So if we're stressed, if we're wound up, if we're miserable, if we're depressed, that's exactly what other people will do in our business, and our customers will see it. So let's make sure that we are injecting a little bit of fun. Now, I said above and below the line was the second most important concept I could ever give you. The most important concept I can ever share with anybody, it underpins everything that we're about, what coaching is about, is this one here, and it's called the B times do equals have. You see, most business people have got a rough idea about what they want to have. They're lousy at writing it down and turning it into goals, as we'll prove in a minute. And most of them have got a rough idea about what they've got to do in order to get what they want to have. But the bit that I'm going to introduce you to today, that nobody else will, is the left-hand side of the equation, the B. Who is the person that you need to be whilst you're doing what you no doubt do to ultimately get what you want to have? And a lot of people look at me and think, what a load of nonsense. What are you talking about? It's really important that I stress this, because if you understand this, you'll understand why you're so important, why you have got all the keys and you've got all the answers, okay? And the way that I'm going to explain it, because I just need to labour this, is through a set of numbers. Okay. Now, if you've ever done physics at school, you'll know that mass times velocity equals momentum is a formula. And the B times do equals have is nothing more than a formula. And what I want you to do, ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to humour me for a minute, please. And just let me use some numbers to stress why the left-hand side of the equation is so important. The example I'm going to use is a salesperson that's never done sales in IT before. They've done sales, but in different industries, and they've just joined an IT business. And what they want to have, just humour with the numbers, what they want to have at the end of the first 12 months is 16. Whatever 16 means, the commission targets, the money they want to make, whatever. Now, when they first start, their B, their skills, their confidence, their knowledge is going to be quite low because they've not done it in this environment before. It's going to be 2, right? And in order to get to where they want to get to, the 16 at the end of that first year, they're going to have to do quite a lot to make up for their shortcomings. Now, let's fast forward 6 months. Let's say they've been on a few training courses. They've got better. They've made some sales, more confidence, more knowledge. And in order to get that same result, they don't have to do as much. Now, let's fast forward another 6 months. They've got so good at it, they're doing it with their feet up. And if I was their manager, I'd be questioning the have and seeing if I needed to raise the bar. But I think I'm stressing the point here that you've got to get better. Now, some people on this call will be thinking, what a load of nonsense. What's wrong with just good old-fashioned hard work? Well, let me tell you, absolutely nothing. This formula does not circumvent, for me, the fundamental prerequisite to success, which is good old-fashioned hard work. But let me ask you a question. Which one of you on this call now wants a harder life? I've asked the question for 13 and a half years, tens of thousands of people. One person did put their hand up once. I think they might have misheard the question, but hey, never mind. See, the thing is, there's going to be people on this call thinking, what a load of nonsense. Well, I don't need to read a book. I don't need to go on a course. I don't need to get better. I just need to do more. So let's run that example. Let's say you didn't invest in yourself and improve yourself, and you just worked all hours God sent. Well, what does 0 times 16 give us? I know it's Friday morning and early. Well, I'll answer it for you. It's not. Well, no, Jazz, your bloody formula is stupid, ridiculous. I'm going to prove it wrong. I'm going to work nights as well. Well, there we go. See, just by investing a couple of points in you, getting better, whether it's I need to be a better marketeer, I need to be better at sales, I need to be a better manager, I need to understand my numbers better, I need to get better at my time management, whatever it may be, you'll make your life so much easier. You can still do the same amount, or you can reduce that. It's totally up to you. But it's the left-hand side of the equation I'm really, really at pains to stress. Okay, so the be, do, have. It's both. And one client once explained it beautifully. They're a canoeist, and they brought some oars in. And they said, if you just concentrated on one, which is what most people do, they concentrate on just maxing out, doing more hours. Guess what's going to happen if all you do on a canoe is paddle one way? You're going to go around in circles. If we're going to go forwards and get to the have, we need to do both sides of the canoe, okay? The be and the do. So I hope that makes sense. The be times do equals have is the most important formula. It's what you're doing on this call today, is you're working on your be. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Well, it's the model that I created, that I use with every single client that I ever coach, regardless of their shape, size or flavor, location, doesn't really matter. It's exactly the same for every single client. It's called the cycle of business success. And what I'm going to do is spend the rest of today going through this, breaking each one of these 4 key sections down and giving you practical hints and tips that you can start applying in your business the moment you hang up on this call. Now, I'm a big believer that people understand content better when they understand context. So what I'm going to do is very quickly just give you a high-level overview of this model, how it all works together, and then we're going to go into more detail. And it starts in the top right-hand corner as you look at the screen, ladies and gentlemen. It starts at mastery. Mastery is about the fundamental foundations, the building blocks. Look at the definition for mastery outside the circle, from chaos to control. See, lots of businesses are in a state of chaos. Even before COVID-19, they were in a state of chaos. And without these foundations, the only person propping up the business and making it work is you. And as we know, that's not sustainable and it's not conducive to long-term health and well-being. So we need to do something more about this. We need to put foundations in place that are going to make this business stand up on its own 2 feet, not just by you running really fast and hard, which, as I said, is not sustainable. A lot of people also say to me, Jazz, why can't I have the control that those other businesses that I see have? And I use the example of the swan gliding gracefully along the water. And my clients are so envious of other people's businesses. And I say, what you don't realize is under the water, that swan is going 10 to the dozen as well, just to keep afloat. So it's the same for everybody, but we've got to get mastery first. And that includes your time. And that includes understanding your numbers as well as a few other things that we're going to look at. Then comes growth, all of the sexy marketing and sales stuff. And that's where most business people want to start. Jazz, I just want to grow the business. Well, there's a reason why mastery comes first. So there's a couple of big ones I'll share with you. First one is, I hope you'll all agree with me that in any business, we have different products and services that sell for different amounts and they make us different amounts of profit. Well, what I find in a lot of businesses is we are selling stuff that's losing us money. And because we don't know our numbers, we don't realize that. And by me then marketing and helping you sell more of that loss-making stuff, I'm going to bankrupt you quicker, which I'm not prepared to do. There's one reason why mastery comes first. We need to understand what to market. Another one is you might already be working 60 to 80 hours a week. Well, so you want me to give you another 20 hours worth of work a week and then kill you even sooner? No, not going to do that either. There's a reason we've got to get control, mastery first. Then comes growth and then comes leverage. For me, the real secret. A lot of businesses keep hitting this glass ceiling. They can't seem to break through. How we break through is through systems and processes. Systems and processes. We can talk a lot about that. And then we come to team. Our management, our recruitment, our leadership, all our training and development of our people. And a massive area of a development for a lot of business people. But again, I get a lot of people looking at this, and you might be one of those, going, hang on a minute, so you're going to make me do mastery, growth, leverage, and I can't hire until I get to team. Well, you will have to hire, rest assured, because you would have got busier and you need more people. But there's a reason why team comes there. And let me ask you a question. Have you ever hired anybody and it's not worked out? I can't see you, but I can feel your pained expressions right now. It's been an absolute disaster from start to finish. Fire after fire, chaos after chaos. You're trying to tidy up their mess, trying to do your job, and you're paying them every day for the privilege as well. It's happened, don't worry, it's not just you, rest assured. My humble take on it is this, ladies and gentlemen. The reason I believe that happens is too often we're bringing in people to run our business. And with the greatest respect to them, they're not trained or skilled to run our business. What they should be brought in to do is to run our systems and processes. Systems and processes that we wrote. So for those perfectionists on the call today, this should give you some peace of mind that when you do bring people in, they'll do it the way that you want them to because you're the one that created the system, okay? So then these are the 4 key segments. When you've got them going, what you're going to have is, and this is a principle I do want you to capture, ladies and gentlemen, this is really important. Systems run the business. People run the systems, and you lead the people. I'm going to say that again. It's very, very important you understand this and write it down. Systems run the business. People run the systems. Your job, or with a general manager in the future, is to lead the people. When you bring the general manager in, then what you do is you reach the middle section of the cycle of business success. You have your freedom, or more importantly, as I call it, I think it's a very important word in human psychology, choice. Too many business people don't have a choice. And that's where a lot of the resentment can set in, because we have to be there. I think that choice is such an important word in human psychology. So that's what we're working towards with our clients on a daily basis. For some people, it can happen straight away. Some people, it might take 10 years, but that vision is what we're working towards, okay? So let's start going through these different segments for you today. And we're going to start in the top right-hand corner with mastery. Remember the definition of mastery: from chaos to control. It's about laying those foundations. And what I have found, ladies and gentlemen, during the last 2 months, is that those people that had mastery fared infinitely better. When everything started to shake, when all of that turbulence set in, the people that stayed grounded in those crosswinds, the people were swinging like this, but those people that had mastery stayed like this. They didn't move because they had control. They understood their business. And a lot of people say to me, Jazz, another reason why I want to skip mastery and get to growth is because that's just boring stuff. You know, I want to start making money. But let me tell you something. There is money to be made at mastery. There is money, lots and lots of money, by you lifting up the bonnet and understanding what's going on in your business. You can then take corrective action and you'll start making even more money. That's why mastery is so important, folks. So mastery is broken into 5 key sections, okay? And I'm just going to touch upon the top 2, but I'm going to go into just a little bit, not like I would normally do on my 5-hour days. I'm going to go into time, money, and delivery in a little bit more detail, because the top 2 are very personal to the individual. So I can't really go into that much detail. I can just give you some thoughts and ideas on that one, Okay, so what I'll start with is mind mastery, mind mastery. And I believe, and I said this when pretty much the first to the second week in March, I said it to all of my clients, I said, your mindset will drive exactly what happens for the rest of 2020. It always has done, it always will, but even more so when COVID-19 was really taking effect in our country. And it's been so true. Because I believe your mindset is your USP, your unique selling proposition. I believe it gives you that competitive edge over everybody else. And for too many people, it's a liability, and it should be an asset. Your mindset should be an asset. But the issue is nobody works on it. Because if I could tell you this now, mindset drives 100% of what happens to you. But if that is the case, then why are we not working on our mindset? Why are we not giving it nourishment? Why are we not protecting it? It's like a muscle. Why are we not working it like we would with other muscles in our body when we go to the gym, for argument's sake? So it's really important that we invest enough time and energy into mindset. As I said, it will drive 100% of what you do. I once said that in one of my workshops with my clients, and one of my clients is a keen golfer, and she said, no, it's not 100%, it's 200%. Just to really hammer home the point. And the crazy thing about that is she's an accountant, and I said, you can't get 200%, but anyway, never mind. It drives 100% of what happens to us. Every decision we make, every step we take, every single strategy we employ is driven by our mindset. And there's been too many people, as I said, that during COVID-19 have retracted, and they've gone into that bunker mentality where I started my business in 2007, at the start of 2007, at the start of the last global crisis. And here's what I found. I found that those people that stayed on the front foot miraculously fared better when the clouds had lifted. So that's exactly what I believe will happen right now. Mindset is key, because it will drive your views around what to do or what to have done. So how do we look after mindset? Well, I talk about our pillars. Imagine a plinth like that we stand on, that keeps us stable. Well, if that plinth has only got one pillar, it's going to be very easy for us to be wobbling all over the place when things are pushing us all over the place. So imagine putting a load of pillars in underneath that plinth to hold us steady. And those pillars can vary, and I think there's some key ones that I like to share with people. First one is about looking after your body, because your physical well-being is inextricably linked to your mental well-being. And that's things like exercise, that's things like diet, that's things like hydration, things like sleep. Please don't fall into this ultra macho mindset that sleep is for wimps and all that kind of stuff. It couldn't be further from the truth. It could not be. A great teacher of mine, a guy by the name of Robin Sharma, some of you may have heard of him, he talks about sleep being your secret weapon. It really is, because of the amount of renewing that happens when you're sleeping, and that rest and that ability to be fresh the next day with a clear mindset is absolutely key. So please protect your sleep. Be really, really protective of it, and don't make any apologies for it. Things like meditation to clear the mind, absolutely. Reading is a massive one. I talked earlier on about learning and earning. What good nourishment are you pouring in here? What good thought processes are you going to stimulate? Well, if you sit just watching the news, it's not going to be good. By the way, another tip for you, stop watching the news. If you don't want to be depressed, stop watching the news. Concentrate on what you can influence, not what you can't. Okay. But another thing I wanted to tell you about mind mastery, this is quite controversial, is about being selfish. You see, because a lot of people have got negative connotations associated with the word selfish. And I believe selfish is the healthiest state you can be in, because if you're okay, you can look after so many more people. You know, if you're on an aeroplane and you have young children, what do they tell you to do if the oxygen mask comes down in the safety briefing? Even if you have young children, they tell you to put yours on first. Of course they do. Because if you're okay, you can help so many more people. You can help, you know, going back to the business context, if you're okay, you can help better your family, your friends, your team, your customers, your suppliers, your communities, your churches, whatever it may be that's important to you, you can help them if you're okay. So you have to put yourself first, not last, which is what most business people do. And then they've got nothing left to give people, or they burn out. So please, it's okay. Selfish is the healthiest state you can ever be in, as far as I'm concerned. And the thing with mind mastery is also tied to those slides I shared with you before. 100% participation. I know. Above and below the line, be, do, have. We're going to send you those slides. Put them up. Remind yourself when you watch this video back, I hope, remind yourself, how can these mindset slides serve you? How can they help you? Because if you just have those tools and you leave them in a toolbox, well, tools left in a toolbox go rusty. Take them out, use them so that they serve you. Remember, mindset drives 100% of what happens to us. That's just my headline views on mind mastery. Let's talk about destination mastery. Again, very, very quickly, because it's personal to the individual. If you haven't got documented 12-month goals up on the wall in front of you, I've got to stress this right now, you must. See, a study is being conducted for over, I think it's 55, nearly 60 years now, where the study tracks a graduating year in any university around the world. They stay in touch with those graduates and they revisit them 25 years after their graduation. And here's what they found every single year during this study, it's nearly 60 years, I believe. They found that only 3% of that graduation year, every single year, only 3% wrote down their goals. But every single year, here's what they also found. That same 3% of students that wrote down their goals accounted for 98% of the wealth of that graduating year. That cannot be a fluke, ladies and gentlemen. Before you get in the car, you need to know where you're going. Before you get up every day, you need to know what it is that you're trying to achieve. So having those 12-month goals visible in front of you on a daily basis allows you to cross-reference your behaviors and ask yourself a question. So what I'm doing today, is it leading me there? Because if it's not, then why am I doing it? So 12-month goals, very, very easy to do, very important to do. If you've already got them, you might need to be rewriting those based on what's just happened, okay? But 12-month goals for everybody, okay? That's the bare minimum we can do. So what I'm going to go into in a lot more detail now is time. And what I have found, ladies and gentlemen, is that the clients after mind mastery, the clients that master time, are the ones that just seem to get the quicker and the better and the more long-lasting results, because time underpins everything. And here's the thing, we all have the same amount of time every single day, but some people just seem to use it better than others. And for me, that's about looking inwardly at our relationship with time. I'm not asking for answers, I'm asking the question for you to go and think about after today. What's your relationship with time? Are you easy come, easy go? I don't mind if that person talks for half an hour and completely wastes my time. Because remember, folks, if we're going to be above that line, when they're wasting our time, who's letting them do that? Exactly. So what we've got to ask ourselves is, how precious is time to us? How precious is it? And I'm not talking about being rude and being, abrupt with people and saying, go away. I'm saying it's about having a healthy relationship with time, a healthy respect for yours and for others. So I think that's the first thing I'll say, is have a think about your relationship with time. And one of the things I say to my clients is, there's more than enough time. I know it sounds controversial. And I know there's going to be some of you possibly even banging on the table right now going, what are you talking about? You don't realize how much I've got to do. And the reason I say this is because it comes from the principle of scarcity. You see, scarcity is a principle that's been used by the powers that be since the start of time. There's not enough money. There's more than enough money for everybody in the world. There's not enough food. There's more than enough food to feed all 7 billion of us. There's not enough time. You see, if we live in that scarcity mindset, we live in a place of fear. And what the challenge I set you today, and I set with all my clients, is, even if you don't believe me, just humor me for a minute. Just trick yourself and just try it for the next, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, and see what happens. Trick yourself and say, I'm going to pretend that there is enough time. Don't even let that excuse enter your mind that there's not enough time, and just see what happens. Just see, and I really welcome your feedback, ladies and gentlemen. If you try this, if you take Jazz's challenge on, but even for the next year, even the rest of May, just try it and see what happens. Let's try it for next week. Try it, that there's more than enough time, and just see what happens. It's all, again, once about mindset. So time, just some thoughts for you here. I'm not going to talk about default diary, because that's the most powerful tool I can ever give anyone, but I'll never get the time to go through that right now. Delegate low value tasks. Well, that's pretty obvious. Parkinson's law. What's Parkinson's law? Well, Parkinson's law is all about that principle that, if you give a human being 2 hours to do a task, they'll take 2. If you give them 4, they'll take 4. And if you don't put a deadline on it, then God help you. So this is really important for you to understand, Parkinson's law. How much more do you get done on the day before you break up to go on holiday? You get loads more done, because you don't have a choice. You see, the issue that we face in business people, is that they just give themselves a choice. They say, it's okay, I'll do that tonight, or I'll do that at the weekend. Well, why should you? Why don't you put a deadline on it? Why don't you say that I've got to get it done before 5 o'clock? And guess what you'll do? You'll kick back on everything and you'll make sure it happens. And when you give things to your people to do, you'll put deadlines on it. That's really important to remember, folks, Parkinson's law. People always have a to-do list. What about a to stop doing list? Try that instead. The 80-20 rule, absolutely. 20% of what we do makes 80% of the difference. So surely it makes sense that we should just concentrate on that 20% first. Get that done first, so that anything else is a bonus. 20% of the jobs that you do make 80% of the difference. Break down large tasks, that's okay. A lot of people procrastinate and they're crippled by paralysis because the task is so big. Well, how do you climb Everest? You take the first step. And that's what breaking down. Yeah, Brian Tracy, in a great book, ladies and gentlemen, called Eat That Frog. Eat That Frog. I can thoroughly recommend it. He talks about that all the time. We'll put it in the link. Angela, if you can just note that, we'll put it in the link to you today for you to click on that and get that. Because if for £6 or £7, I can't remember how much it cost, it was the best time management book you can ever buy. He talks about salami slices, breaking it down into thin slices. So do that. Again, it's a play on the things to stop doing. What about the to achieve list instead? It might just be a better programming of your mindset. And then the most important word in time management, no. Now, how many times are you able to say no? And that's really hard, but it's the most important word in time management. And the biggest thing I want to major on this very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, is distractions. Distractions. That is the killer when it comes to distractions. A recent study showed that 65% of our working day is lost because of distractions. Yes, you heard me right. It wasn't a glitch on the audio. 65, 2/3 of our day is lost because of distractions. It's not, I'm working on something really complicated and I'm really in the zone and somebody asks me what I want for lunch. It's not that. It's the, now where was I? It's the inability to complete a task fully is the biggest killer of our time in this modern day and age. I just want you to just make sure you make a note of that, and you're going to ask yourself a question: how can I kick back on distractions? What can I do to ensure that I do one thing at a time? Remember, 2/3 of that precious resource that we're all given the same amount of every single day is lost because we can't finish one task. One task. That is so important for you to realize. Distractions come from they come from people, typically in three main guises. Emails, face-to-face, and phone calls. So, emails, let me say something controversial. Switch off your emails when you're doing what I call one of your £500 an hour tasks. One of the jobs that only you can do, one of those 20% of tasks, you should switch off emails. If you're one of these people like this, you're working on something really complicated, and then the email icon flashes, you go to it, it's spam, you delete it. Now, where was I? You've lost, okay? Now, some of you might have fallen off your chairs when I just said that about switching off email. Here's what will happen if you switch off email, only for certain parts of the day, okay? The world will not stop spinning on its axis. I promise you. I promise you. My most successful and disciplined clients check emails 3 times a day, and they have it on their out of office. They even have it on their signatures so that you can manage your customer expectations. You say, I check my emails at 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and 4 o'clock. If it's urgent, please call. Because if it was, they should have called, shouldn't they? And I tell you what, a lot of clients feedback to me when they do this is that, wow, their clients love that and they're going to start doing it. See, what it means is that you're not consistently getting distracted by that temptation. That's the challenge. It's the temptation. Oh, Jazz, I'm not going to check my emails. Well, you will. You will. It's just default setting, unfortunately. So switch it off, or get your IT company to switch off send and receive unless it's just for those 3 times during the day. Here's another little thing I'll ask you to remember, ladies and gentlemen. Always look for a system solution, not a people solution. I'll say that again. Always look for a system solution, not a people solution, because people will deviate from the norm, whereas a system will always play exactly the same way. So if your send and receive is only going to come on 3 times a day, it will always only ever come on 3 times a day. So just have a think about emails. The other one is people. People. How many of you ever get this? Have you got a minute? Listen, if you get that, firstly, you know and I know it's never just a minute. It's never a minute. But I find this one to be the most destructive when it comes to distractions. And that's because every single time our people ask us a question and we answer it, what are we reinforcing? We're reinforcing the culture of dependency on you. We're continuing to tell our people that if ever you need anything, come to me. Now, I know why we created it. We created it with the best intention when we first started. But this is why this is so destructive, because every time they're asking you a question, are they distracting you? Yes. But let me ask you another question. Every time they ask you a question, is it not true, ladies and gentlemen, that 95% of the time they know the answer? You know it's true. It is. But because we've conditioned that behavior, it's just the safety net. You know, when the child falls over learning to walk, what's the first thing they say? Mummy, daddy. It's just a default setting we have. It's an innate human behavior. But by reinforcing it, one, we lose our time. But two, here's the thing you may not have thought about, because they already know the answer. You're stunting your people's growth. You're stopping them from thinking for themselves. You're keeping them at that level. You're not going to let them grow, because under your noses, you may have a couple of 24-carat nuggets sat right there. But because you stunt their growth, because you don't let them think for themselves, you'll never find out. You'll never find out. So my guidance for you, my suggestion for you is that every single time one of your people asks you a question, ask them a question back. Ask them a question back. Say, for example, what do you think you should do? What did you do last week when you asked me that same question? What did you do when I wasn't here last week? Ask them, make them think, break free of this culture of dependency that we created. We created it, and we're going to stunt ourselves and our people if we don't break it. So stop answering questions. And the other distraction is phone calls. So again, when you're doing one of your £500 an hour jobs, switch your phone off or don't have it near you. You know, a lot of people say to me, Jazz, it's okay. I'm good with this one. I have my phone on silent. Yeah, brilliant. So you're working away on something and you can look at your phone. It's going now. It's your biggest client. And Jazz said, don't answer my phone. So I'm not going to answer it. Now he's left a voicemail. You're going to be distracted. You were already distracted looking at it. So move that phone away. You've got to be, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to be so precious on your time. It is that one thing we've got all exactly the same amount of every single day. Just be really, really precious. So there's some ideas there, but the biggest one is not on that slide, and that is about distractions. You've got to kick back on distractions. Now, that was time. That was time. Let's move on to money. Let's have a look at money mastery. So here's some thoughts for you. Okay, before we even look at these. I said that those people that fared better over the last 2 months, let's say, had mastery. In particular, the one standout area, ladies and gentlemen, of mastery that they had was money mastery. They knew their numbers. While everybody else was panicking and cutting and furloughing and making people redundant and closing this and closing that and stopping this and stopping that, which most people did, by the way, nothing wrong with that, myself included. But we did it from a position of knowing our numbers, and so did the majority of my clients who have money mastery. You see, money is the language of business. It's the whether you like it or not, it's the language of business. And if you don't know the numbers, you don't know the score. And if you don't know the score, you don't know if you're winning or you're losing. And if you don't know if you're winning or you're losing, then what's the point in playing the game? That's why money is so important. And another reason why people don't like to look at the numbers, because they say, Jazz, it's that dark art. I don't understand it. I give it to my accountant to do. Well, brilliant. That's what David and his team are there for. Great accountants like that are there to do the other bits. But us humble business owners do need to understand one page of the accountancy book that David and his team have got to understand that could be this big. We've got to understand one page. And if I can understand it, ladies and gentlemen, I give you my word, you can. And with that base level knowledge, I promise you don't need anything more complicated than these one-page spreadsheets that I'll give you. I've got all the templates, by the way, you can have them. But as long as we understand that, we have so much more control in our decision making. You see, I have a view that numbers tell us what to do next, rather than just guessing. That's why numbers are so important. Now, here's some ideas for you. Firstly, a profit and loss. I demand this of every single client I coach. Not everybody has, for example, a cash flow forecast, which I'll come to in a minute, but every single client of mine has a profit and loss. Because here's the thing, a lot of people think that money mastery is checking your financial year end. Well, That could be sometimes 18 months after your year started. Let me ask you a question. What can you change about that year now? Nothing. When they fly to the moon, they don't fly in a straight line. They make something like 60,000 minor adjustments on the way. And that's our job in business. I believe our job is to read the data and make minor adjustments to make sure that we reach our end destination. Not just flying blindly and hoping every year we'll make a course correction, because it's too late. It's far too late. Profit and loss will allow you to do that, but a profit and loss forecast. A profit and loss forecast broken into 12 months for the next 12 months. Firstly, you're going to forecast what you're going to say is going to happen. And then every month you're going to populate what actually happened. And with that, you can look at the numbers and say, right, okay, this never happened or that happened. We can make corrective action as we go through the year, not when the year has finished. So that's the first thing. Dashboard. You see the profit and loss and the cash flow, which I'll come to next. And they tell us about the numbers, the financial aspects. But the dashboard will give us all of the other variables that we, as the custodians and guardians of the business, need to keep an eye on. Because if you walked into a hospital and you were in accident and emergency, for argument's sake, you would see that that patient was on a table being treated, and they were hooked up to machines. And those machines are giving outputs to the doctors. They're telling those machines are telling the doctor what we've just done to that patient. Has it made them better or worse? And that's exactly what the dashboard is for, is to capture all of those other bits of data that we all have in our business. Number of inquiries, how many we converted, what the website did last week, you know, whatever. There's loads and loads of different things on there. And we need to be reading that as well. Okay, we need to be reading that. And the third document is, yes, the cash flow forecast. A 13-week cash flow forecast that we review every single week and see how we're doing. I say 13 weeks, ladies and gentlemen, because for most businesses, after a week, it's hard to predict what that cash is going to look like coming in and going. Going out is a lot easier to forecast because obviously you're in control of that. But coming in is a lot harder to forecast. But with 13 weeks, updated every 1 or maximum 4 weeks, you can keep an eye on it. Because with the 13-week cash flow forecast, the issue we face is in business, we might run out of money on week 10. But for all of the businesses that don't have a 13-week cash flow forecast, they only realize this in week 10 when it's too late. You see, we can look at that 13 weeks and go, oh, hang on, we've got a problem in week 10. We've got 10 weeks to find a solution for this. Otherwise, we're gone. That's why this is so important. Now, I have multiple businesses of my own. I've coached thousands of businesses, 13 and a half years now doing this. And there are only 3 documents I know that I need to safely navigate those choppy waters. A profit and loss, a dashboard, and a cash flow. If I have those 3 documents, I know I'm going to be safe in my businesses, and I know that all my clients' businesses will be safe because we have everything that we need, just those 3. Yes, we need to know our break even. We need to know our cash gap, the difference between the money going out and coming back. And for too many people, it's far too big. How are we going to close it? The biggest one is debtors. Absolutely getting on top of chasing money, because too many people are scared to chase money. We've got to have a systematic debt collection process, and if you're worried about doing it, then somebody else has got to do it for you. Our figures have got to be up to date. One of my demands of all of my clients is I get their updated figures at the worst case every single month. There's no use reviewing your numbers, I just said that, annually or quarterly. Quarterly is better than nothing, by the way. You'll still be in the top 10% of business people if you did it quarterly. But I believe worst case scenario monthly. If you're in a fast moving environment like retail, for argument's sake, then it should be weekly, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Charging for all work, this is a breakthrough. This is a massive light bulb moment for so many businesses. Let me ask you a question. How much money do you leave on the table? How much do you do for free? Now, I'm not talking about charging for oxygen like Ryanair, for argument's sake. I'm talking about what is that stuff you're giving away? Because when we give stuff away for free, people also don't value it. So maybe there's an exercise that you've got to conduct as well to see what low-hanging fruit is sat right there underneath your noses. And I'm not, like I said, talking about charging on the second for everything, but just to get that balance right. And finally, in order to make sure your numbers are up to date and you have financial control, you either, and this is obviously dependent on the size of your business, a bookkeeper, yes, absolutely, to do all of the gathering for you. Either a financial controller. If your business is bigger, I believe any business over $1 million onwards should seriously consider an FD, a financial director. I'm not sure, David, if your team do that. If you do, please mention that on your slide in a minute. If you do that, there are companies out there that also do it. But if David and his team do it and you're their client, well, it makes sense that these guys continue to do it for you. But that way, you make sure that that data you have is going to allow you to navigate those choppy waters. Remember, those people who have fared better during COVID-19 understood their numbers better than anybody else. And money mastery, there's a hint for you. There's a hint for you. And the final one is delivery mastery. It's how we deliver to our customers. And here's the thing. McDonald's gets voted #1 in its category every single year for customer satisfaction. Customer satisfaction. You see, McDonald's, when you walk into one of their places, let's be honest, they don't serve you the most nutritionally beneficial food. They trust their customers so much that they screw the furniture to the ground. And let's be honest, and if you've worked at McDonald's, I'm not criticizing anybody here, please. I know people that work at McDonald's. The customer service isn't world class. But the key thing is here is consistency. People need to know what's going to happen, and that's why they'll come back. You see, what I find bizarre with most business people that I come across is the fact that we're so busy trying to find new customers, pour them into the top, without any thought for making sure that we don't seal that hole at the bottom of that imaginary bucket, because they're falling out the bottom. And the easiest and the quickest and the most cost-effective way to make sure you're not falling foul of that is to make sure you fix how you deliver to your customers, in particular when it comes to the consistency of experience. People will come back like they do to McDonald's if they know what's going to happen. Consistency underpins everything, okay? That's making sure that the experience that people get isn't dependent on the person that they're talking to that day or the mood that that person's in, because you know and I know that isn't going to give them a consistent experience. Yes, that involves things like uniforms, opening, closing salutations on the phones, email communications. Absolutely, that involves all of that. And I'm not talking about, and I'm always at pains to stress this, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not talking about creating robots. No, because that's not good either. But what I'm talking about is giving people a framework, okay, to work within, to ensure that the customer, regardless of who they speak to, is getting a consistent experience. Now, I'm not saying that, for example, if you were to make all of your email templates consistent, I'm not saying that writing them in a 10 font, Times New Roman with an official auto signature at the bottom is any better than a pink Comic Sans with an LOL and a kiss at the end of it. I'm not saying either of those is right or wrong. What I'm saying is you've got to be consistent. That's the key word. Everybody's got to do it the same. People need to know, oh yeah, that's an email from such and such company. Or that's a phone call from such and such company, because they always end it the same way, or they always start it the same way, whatever it may be. That's what people need to know. And remember, I'm not looking for consistent excellence. I never said that. I said consistency. That's the key thing I want you to understand. Mystery shop, yes. How do you understand what the customer feels if you don't mystery shop? What I'm blessed in my community and my gang of clients is they mystery shop for each other. Walk through your building, see it through your customer's eyes. Have a look and see, oh, hang on, I've not really noticed that box there of rubbish that just lies on the floor. Because all purchasing decisions, well, 80% should I say, of purchasing decisions are made at a subconscious level. All of those little things that no one's going to say is the reason I didn't buy, but it is. It is one of those tiny little factors added together that drove the subconscious decision-making process. The fact that the person that greeted them had a scruffy shirt on, whatever it may be, walk through and see how the customer sees it, whether it's on the phone, email, on site, whatever it may be, on their site, whatever. And here's the thing, make customer service your mantra. Make customer service your mantra. Make it the focal point of everything we do. Let's not just pay lip service to customers and how they're dealt with. Let's make it the core of everything that we do. And let me just underpin all of that by sharing a really important statistic with you, and that is, it is 6 times cheaper to get your existing customers to stay or your lapsed customers to come back than it is for you to go and buy new customers. 6 times cheaper. So if that's the case, are you giving 6 times more of your time to ensure that they are looked after? And those ones that have wobbled and left, what are you doing to win them back? It's 6 times cheaper than it is going along that spending spree trying to find new customers. We should be using this time, ladies and gentlemen, something that I've found some huge feedback with my clients on, the ones that have actually taken this on board, and that is using this as an opportunity to rewrite all of our customer service. If you're not in business at the moment, if your business is shut down or down to skeleton staff, whatever it may be, use this This is mindset. This is about using this as an opportunity that when everybody goes back, if they haven't already, we're going to wipe the slate clean, we're going to press the reset button, and we're going to do it like this from now on. This could be, I hope and pray it is, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that we'll never get again to redo everything. And when they come back, when the team come back, everybody comes back, they know no different. They've not been there for a number of weeks. It's your opportunity to try to really enact that change once and for all and make it the focal point of everything that we do going forwards, okay? Review the systems. Review the systems. Are our customers being impacted on their customer sensation because we don't have systems? I'm going to talk more about systems after the break, of course, but if that's the case, then remember, look for the system solution, not the people solution. How can we put into place systems and processes that ensure a much more consistent approach and sensation that the customer gets when they touch us? Remember, don't rely on people to do this because people will forget, people will have an off day, and people will choose to do it differently. Put into place the system, okay? So that was 5 key areas of mastery. Okay, 5 key areas that we talked about. Mind, talked about the importance of mindset and using it to serve you rather than you being a slave to it. Talked about destination. You've got to get clear on your goals. And by the way, the why is built into that. I want you to think about this, folks. I should have said it earlier on. I'll just go back to destination mastery. If you put yourself first and be selfish when you're looking at your goal setting, then imagine your business like a pyramid. At the top of the pyramid, right at the top there, the pinnacle, is the business objectives. Well, above that pyramid, outside of that pyramid, is a rectangular box with your name in it. See, that business should be designed, engineered, and driven to give you what it is that you want. It's about putting yourself first. So put yourself first, and then what you're doing in your business, that kind of pyramid that you're trying to achieve the pinnacle of, makes sense because it's there to serve you. Okay, so destination mastery is another one. Then we majored on 3 key areas. Time. Remember, we all have exactly the same amount every single day. It's a question of how you use it, and in particular, kick back on those destructive distractions. Remember, 2/3 of our working day is lost through distractions. We talked about money. We talked about the fact that those clients that have fared better during COVID-19 knew their numbers. And we talked about delivery mastery. We talked about the importance of ensuring a consistent approach when customers touch us, which will allow them to stay for longer so that when we add new ones in, we can get growth rather than just topping in new ones just to keep us standing still. Okay, which leads us nicely on then to growth, takes us on to growth. And underpinning everything that I teach at Growth, and this is a bit of a controversial one as well, is no price competition. No price competition. And that is for anybody on this call who has to discount to win work. Because if we have to compete on price, the only person that suffers is us, of course, and it's a bloodbath. It's a bloodbath, which if our nearest and biggest competitor went on a massive price-cutting spree tomorrow, our business model is completely compromised. Now, surely that can't be in a good place. And I know, if I was doing this in a room like I normally do on the 5-hour session, there'll be people shaking their heads going, you don't understand my business. My business is different. Well, I respect that. But I also ask you to consider the fact that my first 7 years of coaching was in a global franchise where I had access to hundreds of thousands of data sets. And my own time, I've coached hands-on over 3,000 businesses. I have got data to cover every industry on earth. And I can prove to you that only 9% of people shop on price. 91% don't. 100% say they do because that's how we are conditioned as a society. But when the push comes to the shove, when you go really deep psychological, only 9% do. And what we've got to understand is what is the thing that the other 91% of people are judging their buying decision on. It's not price. What we've got to do is understand what their fears are of doing business with us. It's a fear. Firstly, we've got to understand that fear. And then, this is the biggie, we've got to create USPs, unique selling propositions, and ideally, a guarantee that reduces that risk for them and increases their trust in us, because that's what a guarantee does. We'll talk more about that later after the break. But what we've got to do is firstly understand what people's fear is of engaging with us. Why would they not? What's stopping them? and then guarantee against it. I mean, who here would go to the dentist that guaranteed no pain? Well, if you would, then what you also find is that dentist charges 40% more. But he guarantees no pain. See, what he's done is understand what it is that people are scared about engaging with dentists for. He's understood it, then he's created a guarantee that mitigates that risk. As I said, he charges 40% more than any other dentist. You see, the only reason why people are buying on price is because we've given them nothing else to shop on. We've got to give them something else. So when they're saying to us, right, why are you 10% more expensive than this other quote I got? What you come back with is you say, well, does that person guarantee this? Well, that's why we charge this. And the thing about the guarantees, please don't get scared. Don't be sitting there now thinking, that will bankrupt me. Well, I wouldn't ever tell you to put into place a guarantee in your business that you couldn't honor. Because if you mess up, then yes, absolutely 100% you should be paying out. That's 100% about values. But what we would first do is engineer systems and processes that would gear our business around delivering on that guarantee. And we've just got to do the basics. I've had this phrase that says, just do what you said you were going to do when you were going to do it, and you'll be world class. I'll say that again. Do what you said you were going to do when you were going to do it, and you will be world class. Because how many businesses don't? You know, I took a lettings agent in Nottingham once from 0 to the best in Nottingham with one guarantee, and that is we guarantee we'll call you back within 2 hours. How simple is that? But how many lettings agents at the time were not calling people back? Any business you call, how many times did they say, yeah, I'll call you back tomorrow, and they don't? Do what you said you were going to do when you were going to do it, and you will literally wipe the floor with your competitors. But then you can't be humble about it. However obvious it may sound that you're doing it, you've got to turn that into a guarantee. We guarantee we will always X, Y, Z, whatever it may be. You've got to create that point of differentiation, and then you've got to guarantee it. That underpins everything I do, because otherwise, when we're growing and we're trying to market, we're not making any profit. We've got to make sure we protect our margins. So that's the first one on this slide, the USP and guarantee. The other thing I'm going to do at Growth is I'm going to prove to you that not all customers make you the same amount of profit. There's this myth that says every customer is king. No, they're not. No, they're not. I'm going to tell you there's 4 grades of clients. Your A's are the best, your B's are quite close behind, your C's are, they can do with a little bit of re-education, but your D's are the worst of the worst. Your D's always haggle on price. They never pay on time. They always complain. They only ever want to talk to you. They have your team and sometimes you in tears when they finish talking to you. They go out of their way to badmouth you to other people. They throw out random, completely fictitious complaints in order to avoid paying their invoice. They are the worst of the worst. And what I'm going to show you is when you calculate your profitability with D-grade clients, you're going to see that every transaction you do with them is done at a loss. Every single, because you have to factor in your time. Because remember, one of their behaviors is that they only ever want to talk to the boss. But when you, even if it wasn't you, it was one of your team, factor in the amount of time you have to give to a D-grade client, and you'll see every single client in D-grade is losing you money. And it gets very scary to say that we're not going to work with the client. But if you say, no, I'm not going to work with a D-grade client anymore, your sales would go down because you're not going to get that sale. But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, your profitability will go through the roof, sometimes upwards of 800%. And I know it's quite counterintuitive because a lot of people have been brought up to think every customer is king. Sorry, no, they're not. What we should be doing is spending more time with the A's and B's. The C's can be upgraded with a bit of education, as I said, but if they don't, they can go as well. Because 80% of our business comes from 20% of our customers, the A's and the B's. We should be giving more time to them, harnessing and fostering those relationships because they're responsible for 80% of our business. So the A, B, C, D grade, a very controversial and very scary process that we go through with clients, but something that we have to do in order for you to see where you should be spending your time. If we're going to be serious about growth, we need a marketing plan and a budget, absolutely. We also need to do this very important thing in marketing and in any aspect of, especially at money mastery. When we're putting our dashboard together, ladies and gentlemen, we need to test and measure everything. Here's a question I want you to make sure you ask from this day onwards for any new inquiry coming into your business. Can I ask, where did you hear about us from? Can I ask, where did you hear about us from? Because unknown to you, you may be spending money on marketing that isn't working. What we've got to do is understand where people are hearing about us from, stop the marketing that isn't, and channel it more into what's already working so you can get more results coming from that one. I know it sounds really simple, but the amount of businesses that don't ask that question is criminal. Every single day from this day onwards, if it's a new inquiry, where did you hear about us from? And then you put that information in your dashboard and you review it. That's money mastery. Sales process. Every business needs a sales process. If you have multiple people doing sales in your business, one of your issues is you have massively fluctuating conversion rates. You have one person converting here, then you have another one up here. They're all over the place, and that's incredibly hard for you as the manager and the leader to be able to forecast. A sales process reduces variation from here down to plus or minus 5%. It's a set process that everybody follows. And any sales process is just, ladies and gentlemen, it's just rammed full of the best questions. I could do an entire day teaching sales and it would be all centered around that one thing: questions. Questions are the answers when it comes to sales. Questions. Fill your process full of questions. We are sick and tired of being told what we want without even being understood. I'll say something very profound, but it underpins everything I teach in sales. And that is, at the end of any interaction with a prospect, it is more important that they know that you've understood their needs than it is for them to even know what you sell. I'm going to say that again. At the end of any sales interaction, it is more important that the prospect knows that you have understood their needs than it is for them to even know what it is you sell. Because you have to prove 2 ears, 1 mouth, you've used them in that proportion. This is so important. The most important equipment in a salesperson's armory: notepad and pen. Notepad and pen, taking copious notes, nodding back to say you've understood, and then repeating back to prove you've understood. And only then, ladies and gentlemen, do you dare make a proposal. People are, as I said earlier, people are sick and tired of being told what they need. Take your time, slow down your sales process at the front end so you can speed up the back end. A lot of people come to me and say, Jazz, we struggle in sales right at the end. We just can't get them over the line. That's where our problem is. And I say, if that's your problem, the issue is going to be much further down, earlier on in the sales process. Because if you do the sales process correctly, converting them and closing them is the easiest part of the process, not the hardest. That's why you need a process, okay? Sales lag, important to understand that, ladies and gentlemen. What's the time scale between you start touching somebody in marketing and getting them to buy something? Because if you don't understand that and your lag is quite long, you could stop marketing certain things, certain strategies, because you think they don't work. Well, it may be that they work, but yours takes about a year to come through. Knowing that is very important. It gives you power. Target market. Before you do any marketing, the most important thing that you have to do is understand your target market. Target market is the most important part of marketing. No scattergun. Scattergun is expensive, it is hard, and it gives you very, very weak results because you can't really specify the kind of prospects that are going to show up. For those of you in B2B environments, you do have an advantage here, ladies and gentlemen. You can narrow it down to the one individual business. You can narrow it down to that one individual contact in that business. That's the power that you have by understanding your target market. And you can have multiple target markets. You don't just have to have one. But your approach, for example, if you were approaching teenagers, would be different if it was the 55 to 60-year-olds. Your approach with your languaging would be different. So understanding those target markets is very, very important. It's before you do any marketing, before you do any copy, before you do any strategy, understand who it is you're targeting. Stop the scattergun and go for the one silver bullet. That will get you sometimes tens of thousands of % better response rate because you're more targeted. You see, if I send out direct mail just to business owners, my response rate is less than 1 in 1,000. But if I send a letter just to dentists in Derby, my response rate, I proved it, is 5 out of 35. 5 out of 35. I hope David or one of his team can do the percentages for me. But 1 out of 1,000 to 5 out of 35, the swing is in the tens of thousands of percentage points, if not hundreds of thousands. by being much more targeted and specific in the way that we approach that target market. Existing customers versus prospecting, absolutely. I mentioned it earlier on with delivery mastery. You need to give a proportionate amount of time, ladies and gentlemen, to nourishing and enhancing those relationships with your existing clients. The statistic that I forgot to share earlier was that 68% of your existing clients, the ones that even potentially love you, and you wouldn't ever think they would leave you, they will leave because of something called perceived indifference. They think you've stopped caring. They think that you're now taking them for granted because you don't even pick up the phone and say thank you. You don't even know when their birthday is, even though they give you £100,000 worth of business every year. Yeah? You don't even send them a birthday card. So you've got to make sure you have enough time for existing customers. And also hunting versus farming. Remember this, not everything that you do today is going to get you a customer today. But there's certain things, because that's farming, going out with a spear, getting the animal and then cooking it and feasting on it on that day. Then there's hunting, where you've got to cultivate the land. You've got to sow the seeds. You've got to water it. You've got to tend to it. They take time. You need a mix of both. There's online versus offline as well. You've got to have a blend of that. It's not one or the other. So growth is all about making sure that we're bringing the right kind of business in to give us profitable new clients. Some other things that you could be doing right now, call customers. I mentioned it earlier on. Call your existing and lapsed customers and don't try to sell. Whatever you do, please don't sell to them. See how they are. Just check up on them, and I promise you, they will remember that. That's more of a farming one. That's more one that will pay you back, I promise you. Use this time if you're sitting at home now. By the way, I don't know how these people that have got all this time, because I haven't got a spare second. You have? Review your competitors. Build a database of prospects. Absolutely. Write content. The one that I always get from my clients is, Jazz, we can't write blogs or case studies because we never got time. You've got time now, and if you haven't, I'll show you how you can outsource this to the other end of the world and get easy content written for relatively, incredibly cheap value. And underpinning all of this, though, is a mindset. And that is, you should be marketing more now than ever before. As I said earlier, people have got a choice here. When this happened, when 2008 happened, there was two sorts of people. There was those ones that retracted into their shells, and there's the ones that went, hang on a minute, if everybody else is disappearing, this is my time to make hay while the sun is shining. So my take on this, ladies and gentlemen, is there's got to be so much more marketing now than less. Don't retract, because that's what everybody else is doing. While everybody else is zigging, you've got to zag. So there's just some ideas around growth. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to hand over to David. And David is going to talk you through a little bit more about Alexander Accountancy and how they help their clients, in particular in this current crisis that we find ourselves in. We are still in growth, so don't think we've finished that. We're going to do another bit after the break, which I'm going to lead you into. But right now, I'm going to hand you over to David. David, are you there? David, are you there?
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you loud and clear, David. Over to you.
Thanks a lot. Couple of questions you threw in that. We do the external FD service, and both Wayne and myself have worked as FDs in industry, as well as sort of being in practice. And your return on the dentist was 14%, which is not a bad return.
From 1 in 1,000.
Right.
When it was untargeted, it was 1 in 1,000 when it was generic. And what did you say? It was 14%. 14. So from 0.001 to 14%. Look at the swing, it's huge. But anyway, I won't take any more of your time, David. Thank you for answering my questions. Over to you.
That's fine. Right, in Alexander Accountancy, we like to think of ourselves as a proactive firm. We do sort of a lot of the services that add value in terms of the budgets, forecasting. We stray over into strategic planning, so we can do the FD services and so forth. Because of what's happened, our focus recently has been on actually helping people get through and use the sort of funding that's available. And there's three sorts of funding, which is the loans, which you have to pay back. There's the rates, which come as grants or relief, and there's the grants themselves. So if I can have the first slide, please, Jazz. Right. The coronavirus bounce back loan is the latest one. Right, so it's a simple loan. You can borrow up to 25% of your turnover from £2,000 to a cap of £50,000. Right, it's 100% guaranteed for the lender, which is something that worries me because it encourages reckless lending and it facilitates desperate borrowing. And people who are borrowing and have to pay back should have a payback plan. It's there to prevent fires, which is fine, and to get you through, but it's not a substitute for generating income. There's no fees involved. It's 12 months interest paid, 2.5% per year thereafter, which is one of the best rates you're likely to find for any business. Terms are up to 6 years and there's no repayments in the first year. So it is a really good product, but you need to be careful. I think there's a trap and people could well think it's easy money and store up problems for the future if they're not careful. The second title is unfortunately incorrect. That should be the coronavirus or the coronavirus business interruption loan, which was the first one that was brought out for the big businesses or bigger businesses. It's as a bank loan or overdraft facilities or other finance. Companies with turnovers up to 45 million can borrow up to 5 million. That was only 80% guaranteed by the government, which I think is actually a lot more sensible as a business proposition, because it means the borrower's got skin in the game and they're not lulled into a false sense of security. It's 12 months interest paid by the government. I, in the chamber meeting the other day, said I found this was a waste of time because businesses we've dealt with who've asked for it, one of the questions was, well, if you don't sort of survive, how are you going to pay it back? Because it was the bank's decision. And of course, if you don't survive, you can't pay it back. So a lot of the smaller loan applications fail. The bigger multinational companies, multi-site companies are actually telling me it's a great product and they've walked through the process. But those are the companies with huge turnovers, huge asset bases, and a complete internal finance team. So the banks have got a lot more confidence in them. But as I say, they are loans, they do have to be paid back. The government guarantees only kick in if you fail to pay it back, and the banks will probably take you to insolvency, liquidation, and bankruptcy. So please be careful with these loans. If I can, next slide, please. Right, business rates relief. Essentially, the relief is a holiday that they're giving for 2021. It's restricted to specific industries. Retail, hospitality, and leisure are the obvious ones, but also childcare if they qualify or if they're on the Ofsted early years register. And pubs can also get better relief if they've got a rateable value below £100,000. We deal with quite a few people in hospitality, and we know actually this is going to be sort of necessary for them to take advantage of. The small business grant is a bit of a giveaway. I don't quite get me sort of head around this one, why it's not sort of relative to how the business is doing. But literally anybody who already gets rates relief because they've got small business premises and they're sort of either paying little or no rates, they get a £10,000 handout. You know, it's not means tested or needs tested. It just happens. There's the retail, hospitality and leisure industry have also got special grants for that sector. Any business in those industries that's got a rateable value below £15,000 can get a grant of £10,000. If their rateable value is between £15,000 and £51,000, they can get a grant of £25,000. Right, if I can have the next slide, please. The grants themselves, which you actually don't have to pay back, with the one proviso. That's providing that your application is honest, correct, and it meets their criteria. They will be doing checks later on, so it's not free money for anybody who can trick the system, right? These grants have been put in place to help people survive and to try and help save jobs, whether you're actually in employment or self-employed. But as I say, I suspect there will be checks in the future to make sure there aren't too many fraudulent claims out there. The coronavirus job retention scheme is the furloughing that everybody keeps hearing about, how the government's paying 80% of people's wages. That's a little bit sort of not dead on, because they're actually saying they're paying 80% of the wages where people would have been made redundant, or had been made redundant prior to it being announced on the 19th of March and can be brought back and put onto furlough. The furlough schemes are there to save jobs and to protect businesses while they're struggling. These are a contractual matter. As an employer, you cannot turn around to an employee and saying, you're being furloughed. The employee has a choice. Unless their contract states the employer's got that right to sort of put them on furlough, they have to do it by agreement. And I can sort of validate that by saying that we've had to do that with a couple of trainees, because training under the restrictions is a lot more harder than senior staff working. They've got to be on furlough for a minimum of 3 weeks. And those 3 weeks, the employee cannot do any work for the company, other than if it's to comply with statutory duties or if it's for training purposes. The employees that are put on furlough must also have been on the employment or in the employment of the employer and recorded on a real-time information return that was submitted before the 19th of March, right? As I say, if somebody was employed in January, then laid off, you can actually bring them back in and furlough them from the 1st of March to protect that job. But those are special circumstances. And the government will pay 80% of the relevant pay of that person. The relevant pay has a special calculation based on 3 criteria, which can be the last RTI report submitted before the end of February, which was the original criteria, the last RTI report submitted before the 19th of March, or an average figure during the 2019-20 sort of pay period. And those 80%, as I say, are limited to £2,500 a month, so you can't suddenly whack somebody's salary up and claim a bigger amount. Right? The self-employed income support scheme is the last one that's been brought in for the sole traders. Your basic calculation, you have to have submitted returns for 3 years, which is the years ending 17, 18 and 19. And the relevant figure for a self-employed person is 80% of the average of those 3 years. Fortunately, the government saved us a lot of work because they've not allowed agents to be able to handle these applications, which has made it a lot harder for people who are self-employed and really not academically minded. I think it's discrimination against the self-employed myself. But they actually state that if an agent puts in the application on the client's behalf, it will be treated as fraudulent. So for the self-employed people, there is good online guidance. And I have been told by people who've done it that it isn't that difficult once you get your head around it. Alexandra Accountancy as a firm decided we'd take the standpoint that we were going to protect our clients. So we've offered support on all these areas without charge, which I know goes against the grain with jazz, but we think it's about that building the relationships and actually showing we do care and we want to look after people. If I could have the next slide. Right, if you've got any questions on these or you want any help on these, you've got sort of the contact details for our 3 client managers. We're all available to be contacted. We still sort of try and respond to emails within the 24 hours, although we do get snowed under with them. And if we can't take the call, we will call you back. So I think that's really all I can say to try and help people at this moment in time.
Thank you, David. Thank you so much. Really, really insightful. And I think for me, I've always said that not just in crisis time, folks, is you should be having a much closer relationship with your accountant, your solicitor, your bank, your power circle, because you need to get these people to understand you and what your objectives are so they can move with you, they can help you rather than just have it transactional. And these guys, from my experience, and these guys, that's what these guys want. They want to build those relationships with you. So please, if you haven't already, if you're not getting the support that you require from your accountants, then you've got the contact details on here, and we will, when we send you the email later, we'll have all of those contact details added as well. So you are more than welcome to reach out to David and the team. David, thank you very much indeed. And I'll just say one thing now. helping people and giving assistance, please. That's not the same in my eyes anyway. I think what you've done is absolutely brilliant. It's exactly the same philosophy that I've taken during the last 2 or 3 months when clients couldn't pay. Their income shut down straight away overnight. And I totally admire, respect, and it just validates all of your guys' value. So well done to you and the team. So, ladies and gentlemen, the brain can only handle as much as the bladder. So we're going to have a break. So we're going to have, we'll have 11 minutes. We won't have 5 because you guys have been good. My advice, ladies and gentlemen, is to stay logged on to this Zoom session. We're going to have a break. I'm going to start exactly at 10:10 sharp. So go and stretch your legs, get some refreshments. I hope you're getting value. We're still at growth, loads more still to come. And I'll see you in just under 11 minutes. Thank you. Right, welcome back everybody. Hope everybody's suitably refreshed. Managed to get some fresh air. I think the sun is starting to come out as well. Hope everybody's had value so far, and we're going to continue now in growth. For me, probably the most important thing I'm going to share with you when it comes to growth. And that is the fact that there's 2 different cars here. There's a Ford Mondeo and a Jaguar. 2 completely different cars, however, with one key thing the same, and that is the fact that they sit on the same chassis. And every business on earth sits on the same chassis. And if you can understand this chassis, you're going to have more power than 95% of other business owners out there. And the chassis looks like this. You see, most business owners that I come across say to me, Jazz, I want more customers, I want more revenues, I want more profits. Well, if you look at this formula, you'll see that those 3 things in blue have got equal signs before them. Their outputs, you cannot directly influence those 3 things. What you can influence is the 5 things in black. The number of inquiries you generate, how good you are at converting them into paying customers, how often you get them to come back, how much you can get them to spend, and how much profit you can derive from each transaction. These 5 things you can influence, hence we call this our 5 ways. 5 ways to increase your business. And in particular, what this formula does is blow one wildly held myth out of the water. And that is that the only way I can grow my business is through acquiring new inquiries, new leads. Now, unless you're a brand new business, you haven't traded yet, and you're waiting for your first customer, then yes, that's the only way that you can acquire new business is through leads. But what I'm going to show to everybody else on this call is that there is a stack of potential sitting in each one of those other 4 areas that you should be exploiting first, not getting new inquiries, because by exploiting the other 4, as you're going to see, they don't typically cost you a penny. Getting leads is where you probably are going to have to invest some cash. I'm going to show you some cheap and free ones, but you're going to invest when it comes to lead generation. And doing lead generation first, before you've maximized conversion rate, number of transactions, average value, sale margin, doing lead generation first is like trying to fill the bath with the plug hole out. Why would you try to do that when you've got stuff leaking out the bottom? You've got to put the plug in first. You've got to maximize conversion rate, number of transactions, how often people come back, how much they spend, and how much you make from them. Once you've got them all working well, then and only then should you invest one of your hard-earned pounds into lead generation, because then you want to give it the best chance of trickling all the way down to profits. When you've maximized the other ones, then it's going to have more of a chance of getting down there. Now, just for reference, typically when I'm working with a client, I work on margin first, I work on conversion rate second, I work on average value sale third, I work on number of transactions fourth, and I only look at lead generation last. For one client I've been working with over 3 years on the 5 ways, and we've got nowhere near lead generation yet, because there is so much potential sitting under their noses that they want to wring dry every last drop of it before they invest in leads. Okay, now I've just said that I do these in a funky sequence, but for the purposes of today, I'm just going to go through it top down. And if you ever come to my half day, my 5-hour day, you'll know that I go through this in a hell of a lot more detail. This section normally takes over an hour, but I'm not going to have that luxury today. So I'm just going to give you the most important strategies in each one of those 5 areas. And then what I'm going to show you is what happens if you've worked each of those 5 areas in small increments. Okay, so let's start with lead generation. The 2 that I want to share with you today and just want to get your mind to focus on are referrals and strategic alliances. So let's start with referrals, if we may. So referrals, who do you know that you can partner up with, who can send you new inquiries? Should every business have a referral system that's going to activate their customers? Well, let me share with you a story first to give you an idea of the power of this strategy. So many years ago, I coached a software reselling company. They sold a bit of software called SolidWorks. You may have heard of that. And the numbers that I want you to remember are they sold each new license for over £6,000, and there was more than 50% profit in each one of those transactions. The other number I want you to remember is 250. 250 was the number of new sales they had to get every single year. And why, when I say they had to get, because they're a reseller and they were incentivized by SolidWorks, the global entity. And SolidWorks are very black and white with their referral scheme. If you hit 250 new sales every year, you got the higher rate commission on all of those sales. If you went down to 224, no gray area, 225 or 224. If you hit 224, it was the lower rate on everything. And the difference to my client's business between those two numbers, that one sale, would be more than £100,000. So we got to about the first week in November and we saw on our dashboard, our run rate was showing that we were going to pretty much come in on 225 for the calendar year. The issue with that is that we could be clinking our champagne glasses and celebrating and toasting having achieved 225, and one person in their 30-day cooling off period could cancel, thus losing that business over £100,000 in commissions. And I'd like to think everyone on the call would agree that that was too much of a risk. We had to mitigate that risk. So we put together a referral scheme, and we emailed all of the clients and said, if you can think of somebody that buys SolidWorks, you can have one of three prizes. You can either, this was many years ago, you can either have a iPod Touch. Was it an iPod Nano? I can't remember. It cost us less than £100. You can have a free day's go-karting, which again would cost us less than £100. Or you can have an extra 3 days training, dear customer of ours, on the software you already own from us. You can have it free, an extra day at our premises. Now, this company already did paid training days pretty much every day of the week. This was just another bum on a seat, another lunch. Let's say it's going to cost them £10. So we sent that out. And before the end of the year, not just seeing people, we'd seen and closed 8 new licenses off the back of that one email. So I shared some numbers with you. That means that we made more than £24,000 worth of profit for a net cost no more of £800 to us. And if you aren't prepared to invest £800 to make £24,000 profit, I'm going to get your names and addresses and come round with a big stick, because that's the power. That's the power of activating your existing clients. Now, here's the thing. Unless you're psychotic and you want more D-grade clients, don't ask your C's and D's. Only ask your A and B grade clients for referrals. Another reason to do the ABCD grading exercise, I would suggest. And the other thing about referrals, ladies and gentlemen, is that you have got to ask regularly. You can't ask people once and expect them to remember. Some statistics I saw recently said that the average human being has 400 million, yes, million messages fired at them every single day. And I don't care how much your customers love you, they will forget in that haze of messages that we're all getting hit with every single day. So it's very important that you consistently remind your customers on your requirement for referrals, and also educate them. Tell them what you want, how to refer to you, the different things that they could do to help, but you've got to do it regularly. I ask all of my clients twice every quarter, so once at the halfway point of every quarter and once at the end. So got to make sure that we are engaging with referrals. The other one I wanted to share with you is my personal favorite, because I've used it so well in my own business for over 10 of the 13 and a half years, and that is strategic alliances. So who do you know that has got the same target market customers that you're looking for and is not in competition with you? And how can you form a mutually beneficial relationship? I'll say that again. Who do you know that's got the same target market clients as you, but you're not in competition? And how can you and that business form a mutually beneficial relationship to drive more business? Okay, so let me give you an example. Let's say for argument's sake, have a hairdressing salon, and I want some more leads. I want some more inquiries, some more customers through the door. And I approach Angela, who runs a beauty salon down the road. I approach Angela with a letter that I've written that I want Angela to send to her customers. And the letter generally says, look, thank you for being a client of Angela's Beauty Salon. In this day and age, not many people say thank you to their customers because they don't. I want to tell you that I'm different and I really value your loyal custom. And I've arranged for you, as a way of thank you, to get a free haircut at Jazz's Hairdressing Salon. Normally costs £40, but if you take this letter with you, it's free, it's on me. Thank you. Now, I'd like to think that Angela's customers, when they receive that letter, are going to be wowed, and Angela's emotional bank balance is going to get some substantial deposits. Well, what am I going to charge Angela to do that? Absolutely nothing. I'm not going to charge you a penny. You see, I know my numbers in the hairdressing salon. I know my numbers. I know that the hard costs of doing a haircut are £15. So I know that I'm going to have to give £15 away. But I know that when Angela's customers come in to claim their free haircut, they have to bring that letter with them. And that letter's got their details on it. Now, I am going to put that detail on my system and I'm going to market to them. I'm also going to blow them away with the consistency of delivery when they come in the first time. And I know that they're going to come back on average every 6 weeks. And I keep my clients on average for over 4.5 years. So now if you do the numbers, wow, giving away £15 isn't too big a deal. And remember, it's cost Angela nothing. I've not charged her a penny. This is a win-win in every aspect if you know your numbers. Too many businesses are thinking tactically. I want you to start thinking strategically. Who's already got those 100 customers, those 100 customers that you would love, and how can they introduce you to them in a mutually beneficial way? You know, one of the other ways may be a health food store and a gymnasium. You know, so a pet food store and a dog kennels, you know, whatever it may be. So how can you create a mutually beneficial relationship with somebody that you can buddy up with? Okay, so let's, we'll give some other examples in a minute actually on that one. Let's move on then. So there's no use getting new inquiries in if you suck at converting them. It's no use bringing them to the door because we've got to get the money in the till. And that's the next one, conversion rate. It's all about the sales. It's all about sales. And this was my personal favorite, always has been, in the 5 ways. I love this one because of the power in this one. You see, whatever percentage we increase your conversion rate by, we increase your business by. See, a lot of people say to me, Jazz, you know what? We've got this one absolutely licked. Don't worry about this one. Let's focus somewhere else. Well, they tell me their conversion rate is over 90%. And when we start to measure it, we find out that their conversion rate is only 12%. And they're distraught. They're in tears, some of them, practically on the floor, crying their eyes out, calling themselves every failure ever known to mankind. I tell them they should be the happiest people on earth. You see, if their conversion rate had been 90%, we couldn't have really done much with that. But if their conversion rate is 12% and we double that, which we can, then we'll double their business. And that's the power of conversion rate. Now, if you want a 10% conversion rate today, straight off the bat, all you need to do, if you haven't already done it, is start measuring it. You've got to go back to your business, tell yourself and your team, we're going to start measuring conversion rate by individual, ideally, okay? Because whatever you shine a light on will grow and expand. It's like the haulage company that told their drivers, hey, drivers, next week, we're going to be monitoring miles per gallon. What do you think happened to miles per gallon the following week and onwards? Of course, it went up because there was focus on it and attention on it. So conversion rate has got such potential to make such a massive impact on your business. A client of mine many, many years ago, they came into a coaching session and they said, Jazz, the leads have dried up. We need to do some more marketing. We need to generate more inquiries. And I said, look at your dashboard. Your dashboard tells you you've got over £400,000 worth of inquiries in there. You don't need to focus on leads, you need to focus on conversion rate. Another languaging I'll give you is you don't need to concentrate on marketing, you need to concentrate on sales. There's a distinction there that I want to draw your attention to. This conversion rate is about sales, not marketing. People can get the two areas completely mixed up because they require two different disciplines altogether. Conversion rate now is about sales and about converting that prospect. I've talked about already the sales process. It's also knowing the principle of marginal gains. For example, did you know that you break down a process into tiny little areas, and if you improve each little area and you stick it all back together, the compound effect is huge. The phrase was probably made famous by a gentleman by the name of Sir Dave Brailsford, who was the head of Team GB cycling in the London 2012 Olympics. And Sir Dave coins that phrase. He talks about the fact that in their cyclists for Team GB, when they weren't cycling, they had electric hot pants on that heated their hamstrings. When they went on their training camps, they were allowed to take their own mattresses and pillows with them to avoid any skeletal issues that would injure them. They were taught how to wash their hands so they didn't get food poisoning. You know, they were taught how when they prepare their bike, they clean the outside of the wheel with alcohol so that it grips on the floor when they pull off for their race. So now all of these things that I've just said there in isolation wouldn't make much of a difference. However, when they were all done together, they made a huge impact at London 2012 Olympics, because Team GB won 9 out of 12 of the Olympic gold medals in the cycling discipline. And that's exactly what I want you to think about at sales. For example, did you know that there is an ideal sales colour? It's red, white and blue. It's red, white, and it's been tested. Do you know that touching somebody on the left elbow during a conversation increases your conversion rate? Did you know, gentlemen, that if your prospect is female and the back of your shoes, the heel is dirty, go home. You're going to get nothing today. Believe me, you'll get nothing. Do you know that having a name badge helps with conversion rate? Yes, all of these little things done together makes a massive difference. And that's how I want you to think about conversion rate, breaking it down. Those two things are two areas there to think about. Let's go down now to number of transactions. I mentioned it earlier in delivery mastery. Remember, it's 6 times cheaper to get your existing clients to come back than it is to try to go and buy new customers. The best example I'll give you here is a car salesman in North America by the name of Joe Girard. And what Joe does is every time you bought a car from him, he's got your details, and from this month onwards, he is going to send you a postcard. That's what he's going to do. He's going to send you a postcard. And the postcard isn't sales. All it's saying is, listen, hope everything's okay with the car. Any problems, you know where we are. Now, what Joe also knows, in North America, the average repeat buying cycle for a new car is about 4 years. So by sending that postcard every single month, who's going to get front of mind when 3 years and 11 months is elapsed? For a cost of what? 48 postcards and stamps. Well, in our country, that's probably about 10 grand now with the price of stamps. But I think you get what I'm talking about here. These are pennies in the grand scheme of things. We've got to stay in touch. We've got to stay front of mind. The other thing that we've got to do at number of transactions is the magic matrix exercise. And what that is just get a spreadsheet together with, on one axis, your list of your customers, and down the other axis, the list of your products and services. And put a tick in the box for who's got what. You see, I talked earlier on about targeted marketing. Let's say for argument's sake, you've got 12 different products and services. My advice to you would be to create 12 postcards. Yes, postcards. And for each one of those disciplines that you sell. And if you were to just create one letter with those 12 things on it and send it to all of your customers, that's not very targeted. That's just noise. Whereas let's say one of your customers only had 6 of your 12 products and services. Well, my advice would be for the next 6 weeks, 1 a week, they get a postcard for the products and services that they haven't got from you. 1 a week, much more targeted. They've got a chance to absorb it. That's the magic matrix. Now, these are the things that will help generate more business. The key thing I've got to stress to you is you've got to stay in front of them. You can't just be getting in touch with them when you want them to buy something. That's fickle and people can see right through it. A blog, a newsletter, whatever you can do, but don't sell, give value. The next one is average value sale. Do you want fries with that? Do you want fries with that? Let me tell you something. That one question at the last count nets McDonald's £50 million in sales every single day globally. That's that one question. And here's the thing. The 30% of people that say yes to that question had no intention of buying fries when they were originally ordering, but because they were asked that question, they went, yeah, go on then. But here's the really interesting statistic, ladies and gentlemen. That same 30% ratio applies to any business on earth. So what we've got to do is start to incorporate, do you want fries with that questions into each of our sales interactions? Do you want fries with that? What are your do you want fries with that questions, and how can you make sure you train all of your team to ask them all of the time? Because the impact I'm going to show you in a minute is only if everybody does it all the time. Now, you don't even potentially have to offer that product or service. Many, many years ago, I coached a mechanic, and when they were servicing somebody's car, and they noticed maybe one of the doors was dented after a crash or something, and they would recommend that customer go and see the body shop down the road. And likewise, if the body shop was knocking out someone's paneling on one of their panels on their car, and they noticed the service light was on in that car, they would recommend they go and see the mechanic. And these two businesses gave each other a 5% finder's fee, thus increasing the average value sale. So what do you want fries with those questions have you got that you can now begin to incorporate? You're going to see the power of this on the next slide, by the way, why this is so important, okay? And then the final one is margins. I already talked about pricing, an incredibly emotive subject, incredibly emotive, as I said. Here's the thing with pricing. I can work with somebody for years. I can work with them for 10 years and I won't make them a penny. And it breaks my heart because fundamentally their pricing model is completely flawed. I come across some people that haven't put their price up for over 7, sometimes 10 years. Have our costs gone up in the meantime? You know that. They don't stop going up. But our pricing has stayed there. So what's happened to our margin? It's got completely crushed and people wonder why they can't make a living. And here's the thing, if you haven't put your price up by 10% in the last 12 months, you can do it today. Even in the crisis, you can do it. And you will lose 1% of your customers. Guess which grade of customer they will be? Yes, those ones that lose you money anyway. The D grade client. By the way, best bit of advice to get rid of a D grade client, keep putting their price up. Okay, let's go back to pricing. Now, I come across these people and they haven't put their price up, and everything that I talk about in pricing, ladies and gentlemen, please understand one thing. This isn't about ripping anybody off. This is about getting a fair return for all of that struggle, all of that sacrifice, all of that risk, all of that effort that small to medium-sized businesses put in. And like I said, I just want them to make a life for themselves. And too many are destined not to achieve anything. They're going to work every hour God sends, but not going to achieve anything because their pricing's wrong. So if you put your price up by 10%, you'll lose 1% of your customers. Some people will moan and then they'll get on with it. Some people will say to you, hey, I wondered when you were going to do that. I don't know how you've been in business for this long. But here's the really strange thing. For some of you that haven't put your price up longer, you'll get busier. You'll get busier. I hope people on this call will be able to agree that in certain situations in their business lives, they've lost business for being too cheap. They've lost business because perceived value still plays a part in the decision-making process. So pricing is incredibly important. And the rule of thumb that I want you to remember is that if 10% of people are not complaining about your price, it means you're too cheap. I'll say that again. If 10% of people are not complaining about your price, it means that you're too cheap. Okay, so there's a little ratio. Let me share with you a story how this can be hammered home more than anything else. Many years ago, a close friend of mine in the northwest of England, Graham, he's a coach. He was coaching a new client who was a joiner. Okay, the joiner's name was Martin. And Martin made high-end kitchens by hand. Martin was in his mid-50s at this stage. He'd been doing it since he was 16 years old. High-end, I'm talking 50,000 to 100,000 pound kitchens, handmade. And Martin had worked all his life, and when I say literally worked his fingers to the bone, I kid you not, but he'd never made a penny. And Graham, the coach, said, look, Martin, you've got to give me a chance here. While we line everything else out, you need to sort your pricing out. And he told him about the rule of thumb of 10% and all this kind of stuff. So Martin went away with a bit of trepidation and did the 10%. 7 weeks later, during a coaching session, Martin, the client, said to Graham, the coach, he said, oh, Graham, we've passed that 10% of people complaining last week about pricing. Now, Graham was very confused because he thought, hang on, we put the price up 7 weeks ago. How come they're only complaining now? Well, Martin, the client, had misheard. Martin thought Graham had said, put your price up by 10% a week. A week. So 7 weeks later, when Martin's price now 10% week on week, after 7 weeks is 100%. When Martin's price is 100% higher now than what he used to quote at, he's now crossed that 10% threshold. That's bonkers, but true. How undervaluing was Martin on his service and his product and his skill and his craft and his quality? It breaks my heart. I know it's a funny story when you take a step back and think, but all of those years working, all of that time for no reward whatsoever. Remember, we've normally got more of an issue with our pricing than our customers have. Our prices are going up, our costs are going up. We have to make sure that our pricing is reflective of that. And I don't just flippantly say 10%, ladies and gentlemen, please don't think that. I have a matrix, and the matrix tells you that, if this is your margin, you can afford to go this much without losing, so you'll lose this many before you're any worse off profit-wise. But the flip side is also true. Discounting. That same matrix will tell you that if your margin is this and you discount by this, you have to put you have to do X amount more in sales to claw back what you just gave away in that discount. So pricing is something so incredibly important that we all have to understand and come to terms with, along with costs. You know, I regularly set my clients an objective to go and reduce their costs. By the way, one caveat to that is no successful person ever made their fortune by cutting costs. It's always about growing, but every successful person does keep an eye on costs and keep them under control. But how can you do any of this if you don't have your costs shown every month in a profit and loss? The stuff we talked about at Money Mastery. So what I've done now, ladies and gentlemen, is just, and I mean very quickly, for those that come to my normal half day, you know this takes a long time. I've just very quickly whizzed through those key 5 areas and give you, I hope anyway, a few things for you to take away and start to chip away at before you even look at marketing for new business. But what I really want to stress to you is the importance of the numbers and the difference that those numbers can make if you were to improve all of the things that you do in your business by just a minor amount. So let me just bring up that slide. So what's going on here? So let me just see what's happened here. It looks like my screen has frozen for some reason. Let me just see. Sorry about this, folks. How strange. Let me just, okay, so you're just gonna have to bear with me on this one, folks. Yes, here we go. Right, so you may have a blank screen on the screen there. Just give me 2 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies for that. I hope you're all still with me. Let's bring up the presentation. Angela, are you still with me? Okay. So we seem to have a problem with my PowerPoint. Sorry about that, folks. Just here we go. Hey, we've got David. David is showing up there. That was brilliant. Good to see you, David. Right, here we go. Let's just reboot this up. The wonders of modern technology and doing everything like this. Right, let's go back to my slide. Here we are. Right, apologies for that, guys. Thank you for your patience. Right, let's bring that up. Okay, so what I want to show now is what happens if you make just a 10% improvement across each of those 5 key areas. Okay, so I'm going to put them numbers in. We're just going to give you some basic baseline numbers. Okay, this is just a normal business here. Those numbers are to give you some perspective when I increase them by 10%. Okay, so let's say, for argument's sake, we managed to increase the number of leads in this business by 10%. I'm not talking life-changing numbers. That's just over 1 a day for a year. Okay, and you know, some of the strategies I only just mentioned, by the way, the strategies that I only just mentioned will do it themselves. By the way, the 10% increase in the next one, the conversion rate, is going to do that itself. That will do it yourself, the 10%. So let's continue. What will that do then? What will that do? Well, it doesn't increase your number of customers to 1,100. It increases them to 1,210. So, by the way, can everybody still see me and hear me? Okay. Thank you, Angela. Let me just, so we can see David. Hey, listen, that's a good thing. Come on. That's not a bad thing, surely. Right. Let me see if I can bring up my... Angela, can I just assume control again? Right, I've got control. Sorry, okay, have I got control again? Here we go. Right, let's try that again. Can you guys see my screen now? Brilliant. Okay, so you guys are probably wondering what I'm talking about. Right, so here we go. So I put some baseline numbers in there, guys. And like I said, all I'm trying to enact is a 10% increase with a client, let's say over a time frame of a year. Let's make it realistic, okay? And as I said, even if you want to just increase your conversion rate by 10%, just go and start measuring it. Forget the other stuff I was rabbiting on about. Just go and measure it. Putting into place a referral scheme and a strategic alliance will get that headline lead number up as well. And what will that do to customers? Yeah, increases it to 1,210. Now, the next one. Let's say we start keeping in touch with people. Let's say we do stay front of mind and don't just assume that when they want to buy something, they'll come to you. Let's say we do the magic matrix and we manage to get the number of times they come to you in a year up by 10%. In this example, that would be one extra visit in 5 years, okay? And let's say we add some really good, do you want fries with that questions. So what does that do then? What does that do to revenues? Well, it doesn't increase it to 220, ladies and gentlemen. It increases it to £292,000. Let's go on. Margins. Let's say I managed to coach you to put your price up because you've not put it up for 5 years. Let's say I managed to break through that fear that you have and share with you the statistics and the science behind pricing. And we managed to increase, because remember, a 10% increase in price goes immediately to your bottom line. Okay. It puts your margin to 27.5. So what does that do to the most important number in your business? Well, it doesn't move it to 55,000 from 50. It moves it from 50 to 80,500 pounds. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the power of compounding, divide to multiply, call it whatever you like. This is no smoke and mirrors. You can see the formula there. You can put your own numbers in if you choose to do so. But even just with a minor increase, look at the absolutely profound effects that you can achieve on your bottom line. Now, the one caveat is that in some businesses, you can't maybe influence certain ones in a year. Let's use the kitchen manufacturer that I mentioned earlier on. Very likely that one of those people that buy an £80,000 kitchen is going to rip it out and buy another one in the same year. So maybe his number of transactions can't be changed, but the other 4 can be. And as long as it's an average of 10 across all 5, that's fine. Some will be higher, some will be lower. But if you get the 10%, this is what it will do to your bottom line. And let's make it a little bit more generic. Here's what it would mean, okay, regardless of your business and which one you enacted. If it was an average of 10 across all 5, it would be a 46% increase in your revenues, but more importantly, a 61% increase in your profits, where it matters at the end of the day, profitability. And I've been doing this for over 13.5 years now, and the vast majority of that first baseline increase that I'm showing you now is done without even looking at lead generation. It doesn't cost us a penny. I gave you the example of the other previous client that's been 3 years, hasn't even touched lead generation. We've been extracting 6-figure increases in profitability every single year from their business. Folks, stop chasing new business. Start looking at the things that are right under our noses, and let's use this opportunity, if we're not fully operational, to get these strategies in place. Now, I've been teaching this for years, and maybe that's that kind of normality that I see in that. And when I teach it, I think it's quite normal as well. But I appreciate it's not. But I actually do think it's quite obvious, and I think it's quite ordinary if you think about it. If you step back from that noise in business, that fog that descends and that panic mode that most people have been in recently, when you look at that formula, it isn't too much rocket science. It's actually quite obvious. But as the 3rd wealthiest man on earth says, you don't have to do extraordinary things to get extraordinary results. And I absolutely believe that to my core, that I believe business is about being extraordinarily systematic with the basic stuff, doing the basics properly. But here's the thing, 13.5 years of doing these kinds of sessions, teaching thousands and thousands of people, my statistics have proven that less than 3% of people will actually go and do anything with it. Because what everybody will tend to do is go back and start putting out fires, doing the in the business stuff, the £8 an hour, not the £500 an hour stuff, the stuff that only you can do. That's the stuff that I was talking about when I talked about time mastery, ladies and gentlemen. So please start working the 5 ways. Don't look at lead generation straight away, but start measuring it, because you need to see the improvements, because it'd be really good for you to know that you're making such a difference. So that was growth. We straddled the brakes with growth, okay? Gave you some ideas, and I hope and pray that everyone on the call can see that very little investment was required for that. This is stuff that we can do, and it's low hanging fruit. Let's move on now. Let's move on to what I think is the real secret: leverage. This is what makes us scale. When we're getting busier, we don't necessarily want to throw in loads and loads more people. We want our profitability to scale. And the way we do that is through systems and processes. And the ultimate kind of definition of leverage is do the work once, get paid back forever. Do the work once, get paid back forever. I'm going to elaborate on it in a second. But the mantra that I want you to assume, controversial point coming up again, is think lazy. Yes, I just said that. I said selfish earlier on, and I said lazy. There's a few belief shakers here. But it is so true. If you think lazy, then what you're going to do when you engineer your systems and processes is going to be around making sure that systems do the work so that you don't have to. The other thing I want you to think about is, imagine, you may already, I don't know, but imagine having a franchise. Imagine being in charge of a franchise operation. Imagine having 80 branches across the country or the world. Well, at 9 o'clock in the morning, you are not going to be able to go around 80 branches and show them how to open up the office. What you need is systems and processes. You might have no desire to be a franchise, that's fine, but think like a franchise. Think that you've got sites all around the world and what you would have to do in order to make them operate. Everything would have to be in a how-to manual. And that's one of the biggest areas that I want you to take away from today, ladies and gentlemen, is that even from this afternoon, the moment you finish this call with us, is go and get a ring binder and task yourself with writing one routine thing that happens in your business. One routine thing. Now, here's the thing. The people on this call are going to have millions and millions of pounds worth of value in their heads. But if it stays there, you'll never, ever realize it. What you've got to do is get other people doing it. Other people doing it so that you don't have to. Do the work once, get paid back forever. Don't get it out of your head and be chained to the business forever, thus creating that resentment that we talked about earlier on. So we've got to get it out of our heads. Now, it doesn't have to be just written. We can video it, we can photograph it, we can audio it, but a real breakthrough I want to share with you all is screen recordings. This has been an absolute game changer for so many people. Screen recordings. So if you're on a MacBook, you go to your QuickTime player and you right-click on that and give you the option of video record, audio, or screen record. And what you're going to do is you're going to press the record button and you're going to just do something that you would normally do anyway, whether it's how to process an invoice, how to generate a quote, whatever it may be that you do on your computer system. You're just going to record it as you're doing it. You're going to show it. You can choose to have your mouse, when you click something, it can expand. By the way, Windows Media Player, I think it's Windows, the button Windows and G, but if you Google it, you'll find it, how to record your screen. This will build a library of how-to manuals in your business. How-to manuals that you can give to other people to do, thus saving your time. Your time. Going back to the screen recording. One of my clients, it was only last week was going to set aside an hour to write 2 routine things on a Word document, getting a screen grab, formatting it, sizing it, putting arrows, putting a bit of text above it, all of that kind of stuff. He decided to screen record it. Instead of an hour, it took him 90 seconds. 90 seconds to systemize those 2 things that have been around his neck ever since I met him, and now somebody else could do them because he'd recorded it once and that was it. Remember, do the work once, get paid back forever. In this example, ladies and gentlemen, it's our time. It's our time. And my view is time is more valuable than money. So we're going to get paid back our time forever if we write this stuff down and let other people do it. Now, some people say to me, yeah, but Jazz, you know what? Writing that out, that's only going to save me 5 minutes a day. And I'll say, yes, 5 minutes a day for the rest of your life. Imagine doing a few more of those. And all of a sudden, you're clawing back some of your time. So the vision that I need you to create, whether it's an electronic one or a hard copy, is the Bible, the how-to manual, where everything about how we operate and how we run in our business is there. Now, will that free your time up? Absolutely. Will that empower your team? Absolutely. But there's some other things that will happen as a result of this. You will add an immeasurable amount of value to your business. You see, completely system-driven businesses where you've got a how-to manual will sell for infinitely more than a job that requires you. And somebody looking at your business might be put off by buying your business because they might think, what happens if they get hit by a bus? So what you're doing is you're future-proofing your business. I'll give you a couple of stories on that one. Many years ago, I had a client who she wanted to retire when I first met her, and she'd been made an offer for her business, which she declined. And we worked for a whole year doing loads of different stuff. But one of the key things we majored on in that first year was writing the how-to manuals. Every single thing that happened in that business was written down. 1 year later, pretty much to the day, 12 months to the day, somebody made her an offer for 2.3 times that original offer. Why? because they saw the value in the how-to manual. You see, most of us are going to make a living running our businesses. Where we'll make a fortune is selling completed businesses. That's where we make a fortune. Another story is a client of mine who sold their business about a year ago. I coached them to retirement. They retired a year ago. And they were tied into a 12-month handover period, as is the norm. You know, when you sell a business, you've got to do that transition and the handover period. And my client wasn't really looking forward to that 12 months because his heart had already been, you know, he was already leaving and he wanted to go and work on his classic car in his garage and enjoy his retirement. Anyway, he shows up on that first day. And because I've been coaching him for 3 or 4 years, everything that happened in that engineering business was documented. So out of those 12 months, my client was supposed to be there. Wait for this one. He worked half of one day. Half of one day. The new owners on that first morning said, everything's here. You can go. Go and enjoy your retirement. So he saved himself 364 and a half days of that year by having, over those 3.5 years working with me, documenting everything. It will pay you back when you least expect it. It really will. You've got to start getting this stuff out your head, folks. The other thing that a lot of people say to me and during this section is, well, everything that we do is bespoke. How do I write down a creative project, for argument's sake? Which is a great point. I've coached a lot of creative businesses in my time. And my advice to you there is get into the principle of creating case studies, ladies and gentlemen. Case studies. So whenever you start a project, start recording every aspect of it. You know, a client of mine many years ago is a builder. He said to me, Jazz, when I show up at a building site or a house or a piece of land, 35 years of experience just instinctively tell me what I'm going to do. How can I write that down? And I said, no, you can't write it down. What you can do, however, is when you show up at that site or that land, whatever it may be, put your mobile phone on, start recording and start talking. Create a case study for that entire project. Record it, build it up, so that when somebody new starts your business, as part of their induction, they can go through that and they can extract from your mind your thought processes, ladies and gentlemen. That's where the real value is. Those years of experience that you've built up, that's what you're going to get out by building case studies, okay? This is really important to remember. You've got so much value up here. Not only are you losing out on your time, you're going to lose out on value if you leave it up here. So let's start getting it out there. So how do I teach it? How do I coach it to my clients? Well, it's a 3-stage process. I majored on how-to manuals, which is in the middle, yes. But if we're going to do it, let's do it properly. Firstly, let's process map everything that happens in our business. And by process mapping it, firstly, we're going to see loads of gaps in our processes, especially where we have customer complaints and things like that. But secondly, by process mapping our entire business, we can see, right, okay, these are the areas that need how-to manuals. So you're not just making how-to manuals for the sake of it, you're making it for each one of those distinct processes that you've identified. Now, none of those first 2 areas are going to make a blind bit of difference to us and our business and our lives if we don't have checklists. Every single person in a business should have a checklist, including the people on this call. If you're one of those people that wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning thinking, have I done that, or I need to remember to do that, this is for you and this is for everybody else as well, just for added value. We all need a checklist. At the end of the day, you wouldn't let the pilot take off without doing their checklist. So why in the name of God are we trying to run a business with all of those things up in our heads? You see, imagine this. Imagine if everybody in your business had a checklist and God forbid one day somebody calls in sick. Let's say it's a Friday. We go to that person's checklist that should be on their desk. We look down the Friday and we say, right, you've got 3 things that they've got to have done on that Friday. First thing is that, right, go to the how-to manual, get it, do it, ticket, done. Next one, how-to manual. That's how I want you to think. We need to move away from people dependency and move to systems dependency. And for those of you that have got people with a lot of information in their heads that sometimes are holding you over a barrel, you've got to start this yesterday if you haven't already. Because that's a very dangerous and scary place to be when those people have got all of that knowledge in their heads. Even if you don't want to do it in this classical way, start doing the how-to manuals. You're not going to go wrong, I promise you, okay? So there, again, was just a high-level overview of systems and processes, how to make this thing scale. Remember, systems run the business, people run the systems, you lead the people, which leads us beautifully onto team. In the cycle of business success, this is my personal favorite. I talked about conversion rate in the 5 ways being my favorite, but in the cycle of business success, this is my favorite. Because I'm a big believer in people. I believe people want to do a good job. You can call me an old romantic. Is there going to be Exceptions, of course there is. Is there going to be bad eggs? Of course there is. But I believe by and large, people want to do a good job. And our job in business, I believe, is to give people the tools and the environment they need to excel in their roles. So the way that I teach team, and I look at all of the aspects of team, is through the 16 steps. The 16 steps. Don't be phased, folks. Some of you may have some of this stuff already in place. Some of you might have none of it. Don't worry, you're not expected to have it all in place in one foul swoop. Just want to talk about a couple of key things, if I may. It starts on the left-hand side with vision. See, these first three, vision, mission, and culture, or values, sometimes culture is referred to. The big companies give this a really bad name. They really do, because a lot of these companies like to brandish this in their marketing, and they say, look at our vision, look at our values, and you speak to one of their people, and they say, what are you talking about? What do you mean values? Let alone them living by them. You see, what I'm trying to explain to all of my clients and everybody on this call is that managing people is also requiring a system. You see, most people are managing people through their energy on a daily basis. One, that's incredibly tiring. Two, it flies in the face of, I believe, what is the most important word in management, and that is consistency. You see, if you're managing through your energy and your mood, well, one day you might have a blazing row with your other half on the way to work. Well, you're not going to manage consistently when there's an issue with a team member that day, are you? So we need to give you a system to manage the people. So the vision, the mission, and the values is a system. Imagine having values. And if they're going to have them, remember tools in the toolbox go rusty. These have to be visible in our workplace. They have to be visible. Imagine, let's use an example. Let's say, for argument's sake, you've got one of those 1 minute to 9ers and bang on 5 o'clockers. If you've got one of those, you'll know what I mean, okay? Now, by the terms of their employment contract, they're not actually doing anything wrong. So it's very hard for you to have any conversation with them because they're not doing anything wrong. But imagine if one of your values was professionalism. You could then have a conversation with that individual. You could say, well, look, one of our values is professionalism. And you signed up to those values when you joined us, because, by the way, folks, it was part of the recruitment process. Okay? Now, what I'm struggling to understand is how can you display professionalism if your shift starts at 9, the phone starts ringing at 9, and you've only just got there and logged in at 1 minute to 9. You've had no chance to read any updates. You haven't had a chance to consolidate and clear your thoughts before taking your first call or dealing with your first customer, whatever it may be. So what values do in this example is they give you another system. They give you a way of making sure you don't have to have a confrontation with people. This is, remember, giving you tools so that you can manage people. The other one, the one I really want to talk about is a bit in the middle, from the bottom, roles and responsibilities, KPIs, one-to-ones, and then performance management. Otherwise known as, ladies and gentlemen, dead wood. Dead wood. Now, I coach human beings. I coach educated adults. I coach people with strong personalities and beliefs. So therefore, the coaching is very much a collaboration. We talk. But there's one thing that is non-negotiable, and that's dead wood. That is dead wood. I don't care what anybody says to me. I have not seen one business achieve its objectives holding on to people that are not performing. I absolutely despise this. I cannot tolerate it. It makes my stomach churn. It breaks my heart when I come across people that tell me they've held on to somebody for 30 years because they've been too scared to deal with them. And I understand where that fear comes from, because the law is weighted massively in favor of the employee. But we have to act, because holding on to dead wood is just rotting our business from the inside. I haven't found one, and I mean one, I have never found one exception to this rule. You're trying so hard to move forward. You're flooring the accelerator. The smoke is coming out of the exhaust. The engine is screeching. You're burning loads of fuel. Your wheels are spinning and making smoke and burning rubber. But you've got the handbrake up. You've got the handbrake up. And that's what dead wood is, and that's why we've got to deal with it. I know it's scary, but I promise you, you are going nowhere if you don't deal with this. And you know, some people say to me, well, I've got 10 people, only one of them's a problem, the 9 are absolute superstars. Well, let me ask you a question, ladies and gentlemen. Tell me how long it's going to be till those 9 superstars become completely disaffected and disenfranchised with their one colleague who's getting away with blue murder every day. It's going to happen, and now you're going to have 10 problems on your hands, not one. As I said, the fear is that we are going to fall foul of the law. Not if you do this. Firstly, give everybody clearly defined roles and responsibilities. Documented roles and responsibilities with KPIs, key performance indicators, measures of their role. At the end of the month, we need to know if they've achieved what we wanted them to achieve. If all you give them is roles and responsibilities and say, give them a pat on the back and say, do a great job, well, That's not a great job, isn't a KPI. And if you sack them because they're not doing a great job in your eyes, and they take you to employment tribunal, they'll win, and they will win royally. I will guarantee you that, because we haven't made it clear about what we expected them to do. And that's what the KPIs do. The KPIs are black or white. They either did them or they didn't. Yes or no, binary, 1 or 0. There is no grey area in the middle. The grey area is where employers lose in a court of law, because the law is weighted massively in favour of the employee. That's just a fact. It's not a criticism, it's a fact of where we are. But it shouldn't be an excuse to absolve ourselves of our responsibilities to the business and the overall team. We have to deal with dead wood. So, roles and responsibilities, KPIs. Now, where we reinforce this is the monthly one-to-one. The monthly one-to-one, not the annual appraisal. For those of you doing the annual appraisal, please stop. It's not worth the paper it's written on. Most people forget what they had for breakfast, and you're talking about reviewing the last year. No, it doesn't serve any purpose. It's a monthly one-to-one in the first week of every new month to review the previous month. Documented. That is the most important thing. You are documenting whether they achieved or they didn't. I believe that our job as managers is to help our people achieve their KPIs, because if we've got the KPIs right and everybody achieves them, then the business takes care of itself. Everything's aligned and we achieve everything that we want to achieve. That's our job. But if they haven't achieved them, we have to document the training we've given them, the development, all of the support we've given them, because that is our job, remember? And then after all of that, if they haven't performed, we have to let them go. I know it's not easy, but we have to let them go. But if we let them go, we need to know, we can look ourselves in the eyes and know that we did everything we possibly could to have helped them achieve their objectives. That's about integrity. That's about values, and that's why that's so important. But folks, you can probably see me getting emotional. I get passionate about this because I see some good people doing so much, putting so much in and not getting anything back because they are not dealing with their people. So again, this is an area where a lot of business people will struggle. Because we're scared to take on people that aren't performing. Right now, some little hints and tips for you. For those people that are home working, you can request, you can create a pro forma that they can fill in with their productivity that they're going to send you every single day. I think that's what a lot of my clients have been doing. Daily catch-ups. Our teams are feeling incredibly isolated at the moment for those that are still working from home. Mental health is a big concern for all of us, folks. So not just a weekly catch-up. What's wrong with a 5-minute Zoom call or a Skype or a Microsoft Teams call? You can do that, folks. It just keeps that community feel, and people don't feel as isolated as far as I'm concerned. A lot of my clients having a weekly quiz with their team. So the Friday morning catch-up might be just a quiz or fancy dress or some fun as well. So there's things that we can do in the current climate. So I hope I've given you some ideas on that one. Another area of team that we look at is making sure that we are playing to people's strengths, ladies and gentlemen. And that's by understanding their behavioral profiles, understanding who they are as people, because some of you might have the right people in your business, but they might be frustrating you and identifying themselves as dead wood because you put them in the wrong seat. For example, you wouldn't put a deeply introverted person as a meet and greet in a restaurant because that's not them. And likewise, you wouldn't expect a gregarious, outgoing, bubbly, bouncy people person to be sitting processing data with meticulous detail and accuracy. So behavioral profiling is making sure we get the right people on the right seats, okay? So what we have now, ladies and gentlemen, what I've done very quickly this morning is just gone through all of those key 4 areas, okay? And I hope I've given you some ideas, I've given you some thoughts to think about. But what we were working towards, remember, was making this business work without us, making sure that systems run the business, people run the systems, and now you, or you can hire a general manager now, can extract yourself from this business and you can have your life back. Because remember, our vision was to give every business owner a business to be proud of and a life worth living. You can get that now because the business is running itself through systems and processes. But what you also have, ladies and gentlemen, is a business education for life. Because the exact same principles apply to every business on earth. And this guy here, regardless of recent press coverage, he has got a track record. He has got a track record. I have vastly different businesses. You're going to get more different businesses of my own, but I apply the exact same principles, ladies and gentlemen, and they apply to every business. And I want to really encourage that entrepreneurialism. I think a lot of people in this recent crisis have been caught short, where all of their income was in one basket. And what we need to do is make sure we have multiple streams of income. And how do you do that? You apply the exact same principles that I've just shared with you at a very high level, I grant you that, but you apply the exact same principle. Once you've learned it, you apply it again and again and again, rinse and repeat. So I said I'd like to tell you a little bit more at the end, and I wish I can do that now for you. I hope you've all had some value, and I hope you feed back to me what I can improve on these sessions, ladies and gentlemen, because we don't know how long we're going to be doing them in this medium for. So please do fill out the Survey Monkey form for me at the end to tell us how we can improve, and also what you've taken from this, because my biggest satisfaction doesn't come from you just attending this, and that's brilliant, but finding out afterwards that, hey, you know what, you said this and I did this and this is what happened. That gives me tremendous satisfaction and motivation as well. So please make sure you let me know how you get on, okay? Now, the 3 things I wanted to talk about was one-to-one coaching, our quarterly planning days, and this new product, which is just gonna, it's gonna change everything as far as I'm concerned. So what's coaching? Well, business coaching is a deeply personal relationship. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's firstly about understanding what it is that you want. And a lot of business people have forgotten that. A lot of business people let their hopes and aspirations and dreams that they had when they first started the business get crushed. They were long gone. As soon as the first sorts of setbacks started to happen and the challenges happened, the business owner forgot what they were in it for. And I think that's really important to reignite those fires and get you excited again. Get you motivated and get yourself at the front of all of your objectives, because that's what this is all about. It's also about fronting up to the fact that no one knows it all. No one knows this all. And this is probably the biggest challenge that I, in coaching, face, that people think this is a sign of failure, putting their hand up and asking for help. Well, I think I've done okay in business so far, and God willing, it continues that way. And my most experienced clients also agree with me that we've got this one thing in common. We're okay asking for help. We don't have any mindset issues around this. I don't have any ego. I will always say, hey, does anyone know about this? Can anyone help me with this? Too many people think that's a sign of failure. I think that is completely wrong. Nobody knows it all. And a real trait for me in leadership is humility. That's an important value, I believe. And humility is about putting your hand up and realizing that you should be bringing in people to make up for your skill shortages, because nobody knows it all. And that also involves saying that when we're in the depths of what we're doing, when the fog descends, we cannot see the wood for the trees. Somebody has to extract us from this so we can make sure we're heading in the right direction. That's why I have a coach, always have had, and I always will do, because every single week my coach lifts me out of the business, looks down and says, right, are we still on track? Because if I was right down there, I can be 1 degree off. And if I didn't check in for a year, after a year, that 1 degree has turned into all the way over there. Whereas if somebody's checking every week or fortnight, we can make sure we're staying on track and make corrections as we go along. It's also lonely in business. Who's there for you? Us business people have taken an absolute beating over the last 2 months. And I'm not feeling sorry for ourselves. We're not, because that's not what we're about. But who's there for us? We don't want to take it home. We don't want to share it with our team. And that can be incredibly lonely. And when we leave it up here, it starts to create other stories that aren't actually true. Our mind starts to play tricks on us. So we've got to be able to offload it to somebody who's on our side, who's there to put the arm around the shoulder or the kick up the backside when it's needed, who's there to provide that knowledge, because some people don't know how to do what it is that they want to do. Who's there? Who's there to be that sounding board? That's everything that coaching is. But I've just got to stress again, it's about what you want. It's about understanding your personal objectives and then seeing if this business can give you what it is that you want. And if we know that, then we can get to work on following the cycle of business success that we just did on a one-to-one basis, going through it every single fortnight to help you put into place the things that you need to put in. That is just a headline observation, okay? So what is it we do? Well, one-to-one coaching, that's the core of our business. It might change with the new product, but it always has for 13 and a half years been the core of our business. This starts with something called an alignment session. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a half-day session where I'm going to get out of you what it is that you want, everything that I've just talked about. We're going to get it written down. We're going to get absolute clarity on what it is that you want, and then we're going to put into place a plan for the business. You have to rubber stamp that. You have to tell me, yes, Jazz, that's what I want. Because what you're doing in this session is programming the GPS coordinates. You're telling me where it is that you want to go. And if we know that, then we can get started. Without that, I'm not going to coach anybody. It's against my values. It's immoral. It's completely unprofessional. We need to know what it is that you want. You have to set that agenda. Then we can get to work. This is a complete standalone session. Fundamental prerequisite to the coaching, ladies and gentlemen. The investment is 2497 plus VAT. Okay, 2497 plus VAT. Or if you want to do it yourself, everything is now electronic. You can guide yourself through all the modules. You've got all the teaching and the how-to manual from me. The investment then would be 2,497 plus VAT. If you want to do it yourself, it's 2,497. Sorry, if you want to do it with me in the room or virtually on Zoom for a half day, it's 2,497 plus VAT. If you want to do it on your own, it's 997 plus VAT. Okay, there's a fundamental starting point. Everything's going to get documented. You're going to rubber stamp it, then we're good to go. Every single fortnight on the one-to-one coaching, we get together. The investment required for the coaching, once again, depends on you and what you need. It ranges from anything from £1,197 a month up to £4,500 a month. It's not a one-size-fits-all, which is why you have to understand we have to have another conversation before we can agree to the one-to-one coaching. We need to know that, one, we've got a values fit, and two, we need to know that we can achieve what it is that you want to achieve. If those two boxes are ticks, then we can go ahead and go on the coaching. So there is another step for the coaching, which we can talk about afterwards. Now, we identify a higher level project plan when we do the alignment session, and we meet every fortnight to chip away at it. But there's a big jump there between a big high-level plan and then every single fortnight getting together on one-to-one coaching. So we need something else in the middle. And that is our 90-day plans. You see, every single one of my clients has to stop what they're doing every single 90 days in a room with all of my other clients. And what we're going to do then is introduce you to what I believe is our number one asset in our business, and that is our community. You see, being in business, as I said earlier on, can be quite lonely. And you can also feel as if everyone's against you, so everybody gets closed. But what we have is our number one asset, our community, a group of local, like-minded business people whose sole mantra is to help each other. If you've never been exposed to this, you won't believe what I'm talking about here. You won't be able to really picture what it is that I'm referring to here, where you've got two competing businesses that are just helping each other out, because one of our rules is that we believe in abundance, not scarcity. So you cannot help but not be a success in that room every single quarter. The objective is to create a 90-day plan where you're going to break into 13 weeks your next quarter. And then my job every single fortnight is to break down those 2 weeks and go into a lot more detail with you so you know what you're doing on that fortnight. But the planning days, they are obligatory for anybody on any coaching package. They're included in all of the coaching packages as well. You may want to come and try this. Normally, it would be an investment of £297 plus VAT. You can come for free, guys, because the one that we're doing at the end of June is electronic. It's not going to be a full-blown one. It's just going to be a half-day session like this, where we're going to get you geared up to plot the next 90 days in your business. So if you want to come along to that, you're going to just let Angela know at the end when I tell you what you need to do, okay? So after that, if you want to come and see a real-life one, we're hoping, dependent on, obviously, on lockdown regulations and all that kind of stuff, it's at the end of every quarter. So if you look on our website, you can see when the next ones are, okay? But as I said, you can't help but be inspired when you're in a room full of like-minded business people, just sharing best practice, things that they did that didn't work, that did work. You can't help but win in that environment. But what I really wanted to talk about, guys, today is something that, as I said, I went to work on at the start of March when I could see what was unfolding in front of us, when I could see so many people that were so scared and so lost. And I realized that my only limitation was my time in my one-to-one clients. I needed to do something else. So I created Reach Club. I've taken, ladies and gentlemen, 13 and a half years, over 15,000 hours of one-to-one coaching. I've taken everything and put it into an online membership site where you're not going to get, I see a lot of people talk about the what and the why, but what you're going to get here that I don't see anywhere else is the how. You're going to get every single fortnight released a new module, going through the cycle of business success like I've just done in a way that I know works because that's what I've done with my clients. But every single fortnight, you're going to get a new module released. And you're going to get how-to videos with it, recorded by me, of course. You're going to get, however, as well as that, specific template. So you're not creating this from scratch. And fortnight by fortnight, you're going to put into place all of the building blocks that you've just seen me rabbit on about at a very high level very quickly this morning. As well as that, every month with your cohort, because it's done on a monthly cohort basis, you're going to get a 1-hour Zoom call with me to go through the previous 2 modules that would have been released theoretically in that previous month, to ask any questions you may have, to just validate something or whatever it may be. You're also going to get access to a dedicated Facebook group that we've created just for Reach Club. And all it's got in it at the moment is my most experienced and abundant clients. They're waiting. They're waiting to answer any question anybody signing up to Reach Club is. Why? Why is there nobody in that group other than that yet? Because Reach Club was only being announced this time last week. Yes, that's how hot off the press it is. We are due to launch our first cohort on Monday, the 1st of June. That's the first cohort. Once the 1st of June passes, you have to wait till July, and then August, once they miss the month, that's it, doors are closed. We've already got into double figures. We only announced it last Friday. So we're already into double figures of people. If I'm being honest, I'd like 20 on each cohort, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Now, I believe, and I've validated it with my clients, that amount of data I've put into that system. There's over 60 videos. There's over 300 different templates and documents. I value, if you were to get that from me in one-to-one coaching, you would invest over £35,000. The modules are going to last 20 months. So what's it going to require investment-wise for this entire end-to-end package? It's going to be £177 of that, plus VAT per month. £177 plus VAT per month for £35,000 worth of value over a 20-month period. Here's the other great thing, folks. Your first month, to reduce any barriers that you may have, you're not sure, what's this lunatic talking about? I need to see the materials. Your first month, which primarily is going to be the alignment session, is £1. Is £1. Come, log on, try it. I'll show you how to sign up in a minute, okay? It's £1. I can't remove any more of the barriers, even if I tried. I've put my life's work into this, and for the first month, it's going to be £1. And then from that moment, it's going to be £177 plus that per month to get absolutely everything I've got. You guys got to understand how excited I'm finally for any type of business, from a one-man band up to about £10 million a year turnover business. We've got something now that absolutely 100% will work. I absolutely know it. Now, you might be looking at the one-to-one numbers, you might be looking at planning day, you might be looking at Reach Club and thinking, wow, that's money. Well, what investment are you going to make in yourself, your number one asset? We talked about the B times do equals have at the start. What are you going to invest in your number one asset? What value are you going to place on education? Or are you going to just try to do it yourself and make loads of mistakes in the process? Mistakes are okay, but surely if you can do it quicker and safer, you would. I don't know about you, but if I saw a battlefield that was full of landmines, and I could see somebody's feet that have made it to the other side, I'd want to just put my feet where they've put their feet. There's no point in reinventing the wheel, folks. This is what you're investing in, is that tried and trusted method. So, some of you are going to be thinking, wow, I need to do something. I need some help. I need some support. Coaching isn't just for businesses that are struggling. There's another myth. Coaching is also for businesses that just want to get to the next level. They want some help, they want some support, they want some guidance. Half of the people that I coach are absolutely flying. They just want more control. They want to get to their exit strategy quicker. You could be in any of those boats, but some of you might be feeling excited. Some of you might be feeling scared. If you're feeling either of those, it's absolutely fine. Whatever decision you make after today is going to be a good one. It's those ones that don't create any emotion, that don't make a difference. Probably not the best role model to have on the screen anymore, but the golfer of his generation says, can't do it without my coach and my team. You know, when I'm taking my shot, I can't see my swing. That's why coaching is so important in all aspects of life. As I said, I'll never not have a coach. Now, I talked about guarantees, okay? And I can guarantee that after today, you'll be wherever you want to be. Wherever you want to be, you will be. I can give you my word, because that's the power that you have to take action now. But that's your choice, okay? Now, let's talk about offers. Always got to have an offer, folks. Always got to have an offer. If when we do get to planning day, which hopefully, as I said, will be the September one, by being on today's call, ladies and gentlemen, by showing me your commitment, showing me that you are interested in improving yourselves and your businesses, we will honour the investment of £247 plus VAT for planning day if you want to come and have a look at it. But at the very earliest, that will be September 1. As I said earlier, end of June, the last Friday in June, I think is the 26th of June. If you want to join us, you're more than welcome as our guest. It's not going to be the full-blown thing, but you'll get value from the day. You're more than welcome to join us, guys. Look at this one, though, guys. I can't make this any more simpler for you. I had a conversation with David, and due to my relationship with David and David's desire to help as many people as he can, here's what we're going to do for you guys if you show us your commitment today, because this is about taking action, ladies and gentlemen. It's not about timeshare sales tactics or anything like that. Please, I hope I've shown my authenticity today by just giving, and I will continue to give, I promise you. But my business relies on people getting results, and the only people that get results are the ones that take action. They know it's not magic. It's not Jazz waves a magic wand and all of a sudden all your problems are fixed. You have to realize that when I've given you everything you need, when I've given you all the support, the guidance, the kick up the backside, the arm around the shoulder, dealt with all the mindset, the fear, all of the gremlins that go on. Once I've done all of that, you have to do the work. Okay, if you take action, however, today, and you tell us you want to do Reach Club, remember, first month is £1, starts on the 1st of June, you're going to get it for 30% off. 30% off, ladies and gentlemen. That's a saving of £53.10 a month. £53.10 a month. So your investment for Reach Club, remember, this is £35,000 worth of value. It's £123.90 plus VAT a month. All you need to do is enter the code Alexander30 when you check out. I believe there's a link just put in the chat box for you now. It will also be put in the email we send you with the recording of today as well. But you have to take action today, ladies and gentlemen, because they're the only people that I know are going to get results from it. Those people that are going to procrastinate, that are going to then want to blame everybody and everything else, they aren't people that I can really help, okay? And look, for 120, I worked it out. So for £123 over 20 months, that's £2,355 to get the whole lot. You're going to get absolutely everything broken down in bite-sized chunks. I'm just blown away by this. This is something for absolutely everyone, and I can't wait to hear from you guys. If anyone's got any questions about this afterwards, stay on and we'll answer any questions just to make sure you'll know what you're doing. But the code you're going to punch in today is Alexander30 if you want to get the 30% discount. And by the way, the 177 plus VAT, that's the launch price. I can guarantee you that will not be that price in the next month or two, because I'm just trying to get it moving and get us moving on that one, okay? So they're my offers. If you want one-to-one coaching, remember, that's really for your kind of people that are just wanting to get out of the blocks as quick as possible. One-to-one coaching. I talked about the alignment session, ladies and gentlemen. We talked about the offer, 1997 or 997. Well, if you guys decide that one-to-one coaching is for you, okay, if you do this yourself, if you do the alignment session yourself with my online modules, the investment that you're going to put into the standalone session at the front of the coaching, remember, to get everything lined up, is £497 plus VAT. £497 plus VAT. And if you decide today that you want one-to-one coaching, then I'm going to do the alignment. If you want to do it with me, it's 1497 plus VAT. 1497 plus VAT. That's if you want me to do it with you for half a day. If you want to do it yourself, it's £497 plus VAT. Everything is there, how-to videos, step-by-step process, okay? That's, remember, for the one-to-one coaching. So, I talk about guarantees. Everything that I do is guaranteed. I believe I've got to put myself on the line here and be able to have confidence in my ability to deliver. Literally everything I've ever done for 13 and a half years is guaranteed, okay? So here's what it is. Planning day. Come to planning day. Come to the one in September, obviously, if we can get together. And at lunchtime, if you don't think you're getting value, just tell me. And whatever you've invested in planning day, I think it's £247 plus VAT. Not only will I write you a check for £247 plus VAT, I'll also write you a check for £250 to say sorry for wasting half of your day. But you've got to tell me at lunchtime, okay? And I'll give you that back, no problem. Let me tell you about the coaching ones, the Reach Club and the one-to-one coaching. Firstly, let me put your mind at rest. And none of my packages require you to sign a contract. 13 and a half years, a handshake with shared values around trust and respect have served me well, and I hope and pray that they always will. So you don't sign any contract, you're not bound by any minimum terms. So if you started Reach Club, you can dip out whenever you want. I don't recommend it, because if you wanted to come back, you've got to go all the way back to the start again. You may as well just follow it through, okay? But if you start Reach Club and just do what you said you were going to do when you were going to do it every single fortnight when I release you the new module, you're going to get everything you need, by the way, remember? But just do what you've got to do. Jump on the Zoom call that you're going to have every month with me. And if you can't make it, listen to the recording, okay? You will get a return on investment guaranteed. If I don't make you £2,355 after 20 months on your bottom line, I have to give you back the difference. And if I can't show you after 20 months how to make £2,355 plus that on your bottom line, I should give up coaching. I should just give up coaching. So remember, you're not bound by any minimum terms. You're not locked into any contracts. We just shake hands and we say, let's get on with this and let's get moving. One-to-one coaching is same. You don't sign any contract. However, one-to-one coaching, I need some time, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes I need to unravel some of the craziness that I find. So you need to give me a year. You need to give me a year to start really making a difference with you. Again, you've got to remember, it's not me that does the work. You've got to meet me halfway. I'm going to give you everything you need. Every single day of every week, I'll give you everything you need, but you have to do the work. And as long as you do the work, you know, these are big numbers, guys. You saw the one-to-one coaching investment requirements, so minimum £1,197 plus VAT. If we don't make on net profit that much, based on your numbers, not mine, you'll be the one that validates this, I have to give you back the difference. Now, that's seriously putting my neck on the line, okay? And in the 13 and a half years, I've had to pay out on that 0 times. It doesn't happen because there's direct correlation between us getting to work on your business and the results that you get. As long as you understand, you remember it's your responsibility to do the work, we'll be fine. So everything that I do is absolutely bulletproof, guaranteed, as long as you understand you've got to do the work. So there's no risk associated with your investment, and you're not tied in with any terms and conditions, nonsense or anything. Some of you are still going to be saying, I can't afford to do that. Well, how long can you afford not to do this? How long can you afford not to do this? I'm going to finish with some quotes, ladies and gentlemen. There are some tremendously successful people I've read up on you on the call today who have achieved loads. But if you're one of those people that doesn't want to go to their grave without having achieved their potential, then you need somebody with you. Somebody has to get that last bit out of you. Only less than 1 in 200 people are self-coaching, ladies and gentlemen. So like I said, that's why I've got my own coach. One of my great mentors, James Rowan, unfortunately passed away about 3 years ago. Never wish your life were easier, wish that you were better. And work harder on yourself than you do on your job. You see, that was all to do with the B times do equals have. We're not going to bitch and moan. We're not going to blame everybody else. We're just going to get better. We're just going to get better. Somebody that's not as famous as those other people, unfortunately, it's the whole thing about above and below the line. We're not going to bitch and moan. That doesn't fix anything. The only place we're going to look is here, because that's the only thing that we can influence. 2 final quotes to share with you. They're not public here, but they're on this slideshow for you guys today that you'll get. For things to change, first I must change. This has changed my life. I can't be more profound than this. This one statement has changed my life. You see, because what we can do, I mentioned it earlier, we can invest so much time and energy, we can waste so much time and energy looking to blame everybody else, looking around all angles, 360 degrees. But you today don't even need to know what it is that needs to change. You just need to know it's in here. And if you know that, it takes so much pressure off you. It's unreal. It takes all the pressure off you to just know. And it's so calming to know, hey, okay, I don't need to look there, waste all my energy, look behind. No, it's in here and I'll find it. That's why that's had such a profound impact. You don't need to know what you're going to change. You just need to know it's in here. And if I change, everything that happens after that point will change. And this sounds really simple, but it's very profound to me. Change nothing, nothing changes. So whether you're where you need to be and you want to get to where you want to get quicker, or where you're not where you want to be and you want some help getting to where you need to get to, if you continually blindly do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've managed to bring it in before 11:30, which is always very important to me because I respect your time. It's time to step up. You can make COVID-19 a positive or a negative. You can look back on it and say it was the best thing that ever happened. Don't suffer in silence. Please don't suffer in silence. And remember, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. And you've got to take action. You've got to take action. You can't do this by just expecting a different result. If you're interested in any coaching package, please stay on the call. I'll take some questions. I'll assume control of the screen again, and I'll take all of your questions on chat. Please, ladies and gentlemen, on the email that you get from us, you're going to see all of our social media streams and channels. Please follow us, connect with us. If you've got value from today, we would love it if you could share. I beg you, please share for us what you've taken from today. There's a very attractive affiliate scheme as well if you want to tell other people about Reach Club, you know, the package that I talked to you about. And please don't forget to submit your Survey Monkey email as well. It's all going to be in one email, don't worry. I know I'm asking a lot, but it's all going to come in one email later. I'd like to thank David and the team at Alexander Accountancy. Again, if you need their support, don't suffer in silence. Please reach out. I hope you've had value. It was great to be on the call with you. Take care, stay safe, stay healthy. And like I said earlier, remember, this too shall pass. And I'm ready to take questions from anybody. Thank you very much. So I'm just going to reassume my control of my screen. So I'm already in control of my screen, aren't I, Angela? So let us bring up chat. Okay, somebody was telling me, okay, that screen share